This is where you say your bit.
He's used to giving orders and having them obeyed immediately. You should not indulge him. He and his men carry themselves like giants. You'll need to prove your mettle to be taken seriously.
Detective.
Precinct 57's finest scans the room, leaving the speaking to you. He trusts you. Maybe against his better judgment, but he does.
Oh, this is about him. A real looker, that one.
You sure took your time, huh? Waited for him to get real ripe and pretty for you.
Oh, he was a real pretty boy. Hanging up there, letting out that pretty boy smell.
I can't for the life of me understand why you did it. I mean, I would have just left him up there. You must really like cleaning up other people's shit.
You might want to start asking your questions now. It's not going to get better than this.
These guys are so macho, they're ready to confess to first-degree murder. Ask if it was them. Do a head count first. Connect these men to the tracks you saw in the yard. Chances are they're going to match. Starting from the right, boot size 44, blonde man, in his 30s, overbearingly masculine. Wants the world to know he's a macho man. Tobacco chewing and knuckle cracking. Who else do we have here? Sitting on his right, standard working boots, size 45 or 46, eldest in the room, probably mid-50s, smoker, quiet, coughs a lot. Across at the other table, hobnailed working boots, size 43, gang tattoos, Mesk or Sarah Mauritian, in his late 30s, early 40s. He spent his youth in Villa Labos, a housing project in the Jamrock Quarter. There were incarcerations, hard to say what else. The ink is fading. And then, standard working boot, steel reinforced toes, size 46, the big dick, wide at the shoulders and lean at the hips, rugby cap, fingerless gloves, and numerous scars, a little under 40. The emblem on his vest says Rowing Club. A little patch below it reads T. Hardy, Captain. In the far corner, standard working boot, steel reinforced toes, size 44, 40-something, non-alcoholic beverage in hand. You squint. Is that a plectrum? On his neck. Forget it. It's not important. Let's call this one the musician. Size 41, with the light step. Not a child, after all. An older man with a rat face, mean, watery eyes, and 2 front teeth missing. In the middle, heaving and wheezing. Big guy. Boot size 46, deep marks. Probably carried the victim over. He, alone, is 130 kilos. Add the man in armor, and you could easily exceed 220. Awful smell. His feet stink from all the way over there, despite having boots on. In conclusion, these 7 are the actors on the crime scene. The footprints were theirs, but there's a discrepancy. Exactly. You've stood there for about 4 seconds, not saying anything. Hit them with questions. Where's the 8th Hardy?
The fuck is with you, fella? What are you talking about, madman? There's no 8th Hardy boy. There's 7 of us and we're all here. Or what? You want to be the 8th Hardy boy? We ain't hiring.
Actually, boss, we've been talking and we think she could maybe...
This person Glenn wants to hire. He really respects her. She? So there's an 8th Hardy and it's a Hardy girl? Who might it be? Elizabeth? The gardener?
Shut the fuck up, Glenn! I do the talking here. Now what the fuck do you want, cop?
It has to be good. if he won't let you pursue it. Looks like the lieutenant thinks so too.
So let me get this straight. There is an 8th Hardy Boy. It's a she, and you don't like us talking about her?
That's right. We're not talking about this. This is a private Hardy Boys matter. Nothing to do with your shit. And you're not cops here. Don't go digging around if you don't want a bullet in the back of your head. I'm watching you.
Good. We are all watching each other. Officer, your question.
There's no point in pushing it further, he thinks. This is already a victory. We'll learn more about this 8th Hardy sooner or later.
The pretty boy. You guys really love talking about that pretty boy.
Funny. But my partner and I have a serious matter to discuss with you.
Container belt, like we use in the harbor? Because we took it from the harbor where we work. Then we went out back and used it to hang him.
As he speaks, his fists contract, going through the pulling motion again, savoring it.
We did this together, all of us, until he was dead. That's why there's a container belt around his neck.
There's a catch hidden somewhere. He didn't confess so that you could take them all away. It's too simple.
There is no catch. These 7 honest men have all equally come forth to tell you what happened, so that you don't waste any more of your time.
All 7 together. They're diluting responsibility. It's an anti-arrest tactic. They're playing to their considerable strength in numbers. Don't talk about arresting them. You'll only bring attention to your inability to do so.
Why? 'Cause he was worthless mercenary scum. And he stepped out alive in my town. And he stepped out of line.
What kind of mercenary?
The kind that shows up when you start a strike. The experienced kind, too. Had Cohoy and Semenine written all over him. Ex-Oranese Special Forces.
A live grenade, right here in our bar.
This one has a special gripe with him coming here.
I can't prove it, but I know he was sent by the Wild Pines. They hire merc shit like that. Story of every strike from here to Samara. Wrong. He harassed women, raped one, harassed workers, threatened to kill some as a warning.
From rape to harassment to threats of violence. Why the strange de-escalation? He regrets mentioning it. Hopes you didn't notice.
To kill us all, if we don't open the gates, if we don't let the scabs in, if we don't bend over. That was before he started coming here.
Yeah, he said it was his favorite joint now. Started coming here every night. Drinking, grabbing girls. Grabbed one of ours mid-karaoke, right there on the stage.
He grabbed someone?
Yeah, this girl's on the mic. A beautiful girl, young. Gets into the second verse of Lover Lake. The fucker grabs her legs, starts screaming. Show me your cunt! Why don't you show me your cunt? Then, he gets knocked on the head with a wine bottle. Doesn't even fall down.
Aren't you fucking listening? My man is talking to you. He took care of it. They got the girl out before anything else could happen.
Yeah, me and Eugene got her out. Aren't you fucking listening?
There's something odd here. Seems like they don't want to talk about that rape Titus mentioned. Why not? This is a serious allegation. Make them talk about it.
No, you're not getting the name. That's a Martinez matter. And I'm not discussing it with you clowns.
Despite the stonewalling, you can slip one more question in.
Titus, do not answer. You have been forthcoming enough.
Fuck off, Carl. She's gone through enough without you harassing her too. She doesn't need more embarrassment.
What are you talking about? Embarrassment. If someone has been sexually assaulted, we need to...
What you need is to get the fuck out of my face. I've had enough of explaining myself to you fucks. He's dead. It's done.
As you can see, these men can only take so much baseless scrutiny. I'm doing my best to keep the situation civil, but...
It won't be for long, she means. It's true. She was the only thing holding him back.
Are you deaf? There will be no singling anyone out. You can't arrest a Hardy Boy without arresting all Hardy Boys. Do you think you could do that? Do you think you could arrest them all?
A trick question. Don't let her lead the conversation. Titus, keep addressing him. He wants everyone to know he's in charge.
Who do you fucking think does?
He's so sure it's him. But it's not that simple. There's someone above him, or beside him, sharing the leadership. Hard to say who.
That's right, asshole. Titus Hardy runs the Hardy Boys. Ain't that so, fellas?
I think you got your answer, Mr. Law.
No, you did not get an answer. Titus does administrative work. He pushes paper, fills out forms. The others can't read. But on that night, they all acted as one man. You don't have to keep answering his questions.
I know, Lizzie. Relax. We killed him last Sunday night. Seemed like a good way to end the week.
Known him? We don't associate with scum like that, asshole.
Yeah! Who do you think we are?
Quiet. He came around about 3 weeks ago when that Pines cow first sailed into town. Happy?
By the Pines cow, you mean the representative for White Pines? The shipping company you are striking against?
No. I mean the Pines cow. The stupid-ass cow they sent in to fuck us over. But you know what? Why don't you ask her about the pretty boy? I'm sure she has interesting things to say when you ask her hard enough.
That's enough insinuation for today, Titus. Officer, your interview is drawing to an end. Don't waste your last questions.
We hanged him up by his neck until he got real still. Wasn't that obvious, copper?
Didn't they teach you anything at the cop school, idiot?
You're pretty sure you've had at least 2 years of cop school and many more of active service. Certainly enough to not put up with this backsass. Deliver a knockdown observation. This is where an autopsy would come in handy. You have to work with what you know.
Titus, you don't have to clarify anything.
We overpowered him, dragged his unconscious body to the tree, put a noose around his neck, and hanged him till he was dead and steady.
Then we left him for seagulls, maggots, and you fucks.
Make them a bit more uncomfortable first, then see if it all adds up. Titus is solid as a rock, and so are a few others, but... A single sentence would wear him out. He can't take the length of the questioning. Keep it going long enough, and he'll crack.
With numbers, asshole. How do you think? You're right, Lizzie. I've done enough explaining here.
No, he hasn't. Not yet.
Weren't you fucking listening? The fucker came to our bar. It happened right here.
This one has a distinct style. He puts so much whiny emotion into everything he says, it's hard to see if he's lying. But he could be. Titus lets the others clear out the details, so he doesn't get his hands muddy with explaining too much.
Fuck off, Copper.
This one is a stone wall. You won't get more out of them about the night of the murder. Not yet.
No?
Of course he's having trouble breathing. Just look at how fucking fat he is.
Fuck off, Shanky. Angus is a powerful guy. All muscle.
Keep your eye on this powerful guy. Sooner or later, he's going to break like a piece of twig.
Like what, Copper? How many people have you sent to the Shays? Ever felt remorse for them?
Chaise électrique is the method of capital punishment in Revachol under the Coalition. During the suzerain's reign, it used to be the firing squad.
Or send them to Reunion to rot. For 20 years. For life.
But you see, a lawman, is something people agree upon. And here in Martinez, we agreed that this man had to die.
This isn't something he came up with on the spot. It's his standard reasoning, a product of many years of being Titus Hardy.
How many people have you sent to the Shays?
Chaise
Or send them to Reunion to rot.
The River Esperance Correctional Facility, a military prison run by the Coalition, dubbed Reunion by the inmates. The origin of the name is unknown.
Oh, so you are just a simple, well-meaning man, eh? Ever been in solitary? Prison is a charter. That's what it is.
He's clearly been in solitary confinement, and at a young age, nonetheless.
So he's hanging a man, slowly, without breaking his neck.
How many people have you...
Chaise
Or send them to Reunion to rot. Or...
Rest assured, lawman. None worse than our guy. He got what was coming to him.
Nothing. Your investigation here is done. Leave Martinez, go back to your stations where you belong.
I think we're going to stick around, thanks. Some things don't add up here, Titus. I've done this job for long enough to know that people don't just confess to first-degree murder. Even if it is a group responsibility, we're going to look into this.
Good luck with that. You've heard everything a rent-a-cop is gonna hear from us. Real law officials. You're lucky you didn't get a beating.
Rent-a-cop. So that's what this is about. He doesn't see you as his equals. Guillaume Le Million. Bad news. Guillaume Le Million did not become a cop. In 1938, he went on a tour to the Sinyao province in Safre, where he died of autoerotic asphyxiation. His body was found hanging from a decorative dragon tree in his junior suite amid drug paraphernalia, unwholesome objects, and the Sylvia Trainer single Wonderland skipping in the background. And yes, you can take this as a metaphor for Revachol in the 30s, and also as a warning.
I've got nothing to say to you. Why are you wasting your time? I am not.
You could be Liz. You could be anything. You could even be a model.
Even a mod? Glenn, I went to law school. I am an attorney.
He's right. With a face like that, she could be on the cover of Le Debutante International. The cold look in her eyes speaks louder than words. She is not amused. It's not her. She's not a hardy girl. Definitely. The rotting man lies on his side with his eyes looking straight through you. The lieutenant adjusts his glasses and takes a deep breath.
Come on, officer.
What you do know is, at 18.9
There truly is a time for everything, even for yellow gardening gloves. However, they are lacking hygienically. I suggest you get in there in limited capacity. I'll ask you when I need you to. For the most part, maybe I should handle the contact and you take notes?
You're being handled. If you resist now, he will turn on his heavy-duty authority mode. You will get your chance to dig in later.
In your paperwork, officer, just fill out the field autopsy form.
Now they only have one.
Officer, what haven't you lost? Yes, Bear. I can give you my paperwork.
I should have just brought a dictaphone, he mumbles. As the words leave your mouth,
I guess you've got to start finding it. We should locate your ledger, then hurry back to the autopsy.
Kim also tries not to look at the pile of taped viscera on the carpet, or the weird suitcase on the hat rack, or the potted plant dying in the corner. But it's all just too morbid to ignore. The man is finding it hard not to trip on the tape, and not to send any of the bottles rolling across the floor, where unidentifiable sludge makes it hard for him to breathe. Smells of vomit in here.
No problem, officer.
This trash container is locked. The sliding lid has a padlock that says, "Whirling in rags." With a well-oiled crack, the lock pops open. It should now be possible to simply raise the lid. Don't. Maybe you shouldn't. There is, but you won't like it. Sweat forms on your brow. Your hand is still on the lid.
No, we need to investigate now.
The smell of rotten food rises to greet you. You see soggy cartons, dirty rags, and organic waste.
We're just in time. This hasn't been emptied for over a week.
Among the threadbare kitchen towels, something catches your eye. A pair of denim trousers. As the legs of the slime-covered jeans begin to unspool from the garbage, a rank corpse smell fills the air. Are these the victim's clothes? The smell is not nearly as bad as the cadaver. These clothes could not have been in contact with the deceased for more than 2 days after his death.
Cadaverine odor is faint. If these belong to the deceased, they were removed when he was still in the early stages of decay. Drop them in here, officer. Guitar-marked blue jeans. Pockets empty or emptied. He wore them with a belt, too, a white belt. The loops appear stretched, but the belt is missing. That's it. Do you see anything else in there? I have another bag here.
Something slimy catches your eye. A drab, long-sleeved shirt, olive-colored, appears from the food waste, dripping with pus.
This is a military-type overgarment. No label or serial number. This is the kind of rib-knit shirt that's worn over light armor to conceal it in an urban scenario. Anything more?
The rest of the rags are just kitchen variety waste. A yellow old mug that catches your eye. But other than that...
All right. We should go to Gart again and ask if he knows who put the clothes in the trash. It could be as simple as someone from the hostel cleaning the yard. Or that one. I'd advise against confronting that force.
The fuck's he on about, kids? You hear that, Kuno? He thinks you're an infant or something.
See? Not really. All we know is the victim's clothes are in the trash. The lid was locked and his establishment had the key. It's just a small loose thread.
The lieutenant nods, then looks back into the trash container. You see milk, an egg rest with one broken egg in it, some pasta wrapper. Picking up the soggy packages somehow feels familiar. You've done this before. The movements are recorded in your elbows, the methodology in your fingers. You're used to this. A box falls into pieces in your hands. Baptiste Soleil cereal. There are plastic pasta packages below, and turbo noodles. Nothing of note, however. It's just organic waste, cold and slimy on your hands. Apple and potato peels, mostly. Unidentified sludge, and the occasional chicken bone thrown in for good measure. But hey, nothing. It's nothing. Nothing more to see here. What's this? A blue piece of plastic sticks out from the apple peels. It's shiny. Looks like the corner of something. Something larger. A clipboard. A blue plastic clipboard with moist papers hanging from it. They look badly damaged, but you can still make out forms and notes. Written in a man's handwriting. Not just any man's. This dense cursive, it's yours.
Looks like we found your paperwork. There's a lot of it, too. And you've got an autopsy form in there, in the back. That light pink copy paper. If you don't mind me asking, how did this get in the trash? Boring. Try dangerous. You should do a thorough inventory of that. Be sure some has not fallen into the hands of the RCM's enemies, organized crime or worse. Official notes sometimes contain informants' names, even undercover operatives. It would also not hurt to start taking notes on the case. Now, tell me what your eagle eyes see. Or are we finished?
Some items, such as the ledger you found, are interactable. Go to your inventory and select the Interact tab to read your paperwork.
You pick out a broken mug with an oddly racist depiction of the Yellow Man frolicking in saffron, only in its social sensibility. The container sounds a muffled gong.
That's one thing off the list. I think we got it all.
It's just a racist mug. What's there to read here? Not much. Oh boy, here we go. What are you going to say about a broken, tossed-away mug that you dug out of the garbage? But it was in the trash. Why not just call it out when you see it? Or do some volunteering work. Just finish your case, detective. It's the ledger you found in the trash. A pitiful cabbage of white and yellow papers hanging from plastic board, barely held together by a metal clip. This sad display is made complete by the faint smell of urinal cleaner. There's a piece of toilet paper, or is it cleaning tissue? No, it's toilet paper, desperately sticking to the back of the blue plastic clipboard. It's a metaphor for you. Thank you, waterlogged ledger, for spelling it out for us. Below the pathetics, terror. Do not look into its blue heart. It's just toilet paper sticking to the back of the plastic clipboard. You can take it off if you want. If you want it to be kitchen tissue, it can be kitchen tissue. It's not though, it's toilet paper. Still wet, the toilet paper, I mean kitchen tissue, sorry, peels off the plastic easily. All you have to do is shake it off your finger and voila, the ledger now looks marginally better. An aluminium block runs the width of the board, biting down on the paperwork. Its crocodile teeth are the only thing keeping the papers together. A regular pencil, the tip worn down to nothing, has been attached to the clip. The surface is interrupted by a silvery sticker. It's rectangular, sparkling with iridescence. You don't know how you didn't notice it before. Looks like an official mark, made to be low visibility outside the right circumstances.
What? That thing. It's a halogen watermark. We use it for adding information to RCM property. Any capable light with the right wavelength will do. All RCM vehicles have headlights designed to reveal halogen watermarks. Mine too.
This means you can read the watermarks if you just turn the lights on.
It depends. Aside from an anti-counterfeiting stamp, mine has my station number and address. The information varies by date of issue.
Maybe yours will have how many cases you've solved. How many years you've been on the force, he's thinking. It'll have that. Your kill count. Yours will surely have your kill count.
Okay.
While a bunch of sodden papers sag from the clipboard in your hand, it's a sorry sight. They're not exactly white. They're yellowed in patches by sunlight and alcohol, and covered in dense blue handwriting. Ink escapes into watercolor patterns, reaching its tendrils across entire pages. The paper itself is checkered, with faint red lines, forming short paragraphs. Once in a while, there's a red stamp that exclaims, "Case files commit to paper." The case files themselves are plenty. You count more than 100 sodden, crumpled up, earmarked pages falling apart in your hands. They appear to be sufficiently organized and extremely dense, if mostly illegible. Work, strife, poverty, the Jamrock Quarter. These are handwritten logs of investigations dating back to January 51, this year. The exact number is hard to estimate due to missing pages and an odd naming convention. But there are at least 20, maybe 30 cases undertaken, not completed, mind you. It's the middle of March. You have attempted 2 cases a week on average. What do you mean? Is that all?
Huh? 2 complex cases to undertake is a lot, yes. You really have to push yourself. I would not suggest it, lest you start making mistakes.
Arson, petty theft, spousal abuse. Handwritten logs on dozens of investigations date back to January 51. Stamped case files, commit to paper. These are your last couple of months in Revachol, Precinct 41, Jamrock Quarter. The notebook is annual. It says 51 on what remains of its cover. A molten strap of cardboard. Everything prior to this must have belonged to a previous volume. In short, there was more. Judging by the creases on your forehead and the lines on your cheeks, too much more. Going back years, decades even. It's inornate, nearly illegible, yet marching in orderly lines. Pedagogical, somehow. Brash. It must be yours for you to be able to read it. These are the lines of someone who has written by hand a lot and has developed a style only they themselves, or you yourself, can decipher. Written in a rush, in pain, a race to beat your own heart's pulse to some dark finish line. Your hand cramps up merely looking at the scribbles drawn, as by some magnet, to the red checkered margins. Fast, but always straight. Wearing out, nearly gone. Sometimes he forgets to keep the pen on the paper as he moves his hand, and the lines vanish from underneath. Yes, it appears you employ a, shall we say, robust yet literary system. Each investigation has its case number written on the margins, yet, still more tellingly, most are accompanied by a name. A title, one might say even. One that draws inspiration from snoop fiction and vespertine cop show staples. Yes, all caps. One is called The Next World Mural. Another, The Square Bullet Hole Murders. Another yet, The Unsolvable Case. Others appear more light-hearted. The Guys on a Couch in an Unexpected Location, and The Murder at the Ukar Parlor. Even the rare article-free Collapsing Tenement. Murder features prominently throughout. You like this grimy murdering, don't you? Wish there was one in there about a drug then. You love those. Gets the blood pumping. No, you don't. You're a human measuring instrument. Almost entirely intellectual. It's going to take an effort to piece these case files together, but it can be done. Once you're done inspecting them up close.
You mean the alphanumeric? Officer, precinct, time of arrival at the scene? Oh, you mean the titular? Yes, well, so do I. In our defense, almost everyone in the RCM does. It's a holdover from the early days of the RCM, right after the revolution, when the organization had little idea how to do things. It persists in an unofficial capacity. Officers use these titles to refer to their work among themselves. Again, in your defense, I seem to have named one the man with the hole in his head. That was a real person. His death was real. Still, I named it that, to amuse myself. I pray his loved ones never find out. Rail spiked through the head. He died. It was a workplace accident.
There is, for precisely one more. 15 pages near the end remain untouched by the damage. The checkered grid forms a structure of passages, breaking the case into subtasks to accomplish. Once all the tasks are accomplished, the case is complete. The tasks you've completed flow out of the kind green ape pen in a brash freehand similar to the rest of the letters. The wording comes easily. It's almost robotically simple, a language developed for mental rigor and simplicity. Inspect the victim's body. Get the body down. Interview the cafeteria manager. It's not exactly poetry, but poetry would be out of place. A satisfying slash sounds across the paper. You're done, it seems to say. And you, and you.
And a fuck you to you too.
That last one cuts a slash right through the paper. You're a swashbuckler with that pen, Harry, and it feels good. Feels like completion. Things to be done and things already done. The composition of reality. This is an extremely useful tool for a detective of the Citizens Militia. Now all that remains is to name the case.
No, actually. Any ideas? Great. That's great. That's actually what I was thinking too. The Hanged Man. Good, strong name. We have a very good name for the case now. I'm going to start calling it the Hanged Man. It's good we sorted this out.
You don't exactly close them, so much as distance yourself from the smelly papers. They're a little further from your nose now. Yes, you can piece them together using the alphanumeric code on the margin. It always begins with HDB 41, then date of initialization and time of arrival on the scene, followed by the title. For example, HDB 41120111700, the Next World Mural. Why yes, your precinct number is 41. Every last alphanumeric in the files begins with it. And these are your case files. It's safe to say HDB are your initials. I got nothing here either. Logic really isn't the best faculty to have this conversation with. But it's the one you got. So sorry. Yeah, we're staying out of this business for now. HDB is bad news from yesteryear. It's shit, honcho. It takes about half an hour to piece one together, using the system you've devised. Where do you want to start? This one is relatively easy to reconstruct. Overnight on 1202, a graffito, nay, a mural, appears on an 8-story tenement overlooking central Jamrock. The building is a sparsely inhabited ghost tower, part of a failed real estate development called Grand Couronne. Cause of failure, rent too high. The mural is enormous. 2 silhouettes, a man and a woman, are kissing. The text cut into their form reads, "True love is possible only in the next world. For new people, it is too late for us. Wreak havoc on the middle class." People call it that thing and that fucking thing. It's visible for miles. In 2 days, the station's complaints desk gets clogged with requests to remove the bummer. You and your partner are assigned to the case. The graffito crew is easy to track down. Only the bell lectures have the literage of industrial paint to cover the surface. One of the graffito artists is rumored to be rich. They take responsibility for the execution, but not the design. The ideologue of the Next World Mural, as the crew calls it, remains an unknown. The case files do not show you finding the author of the design. The crew agrees to clean up after themselves. However, your partner, JV, is against the removal, citing public support for conservation. This leads to a debate in Precinct 41, which then spreads to the streets of Jamrock, ending in a rare plebiscite organized by you and the rest of Row 3. The 9,000 people subjected to the mural's message, all of Lakeside, Central Jamrock, and Villalobos, plus half of the eminent domain, participate in the vote. Although the case begins with what appears to be a lot of rambling on the streets as to how juvenile and stupid the mural is, given a choice between 2 options. A staggering 78% of voters choose to keep it. Turns out the opposition were a loud minority. And that love truly is possible in the next world for new people. And it is too late for us. No one cares what you believe in, man with the smelly toilet ledger. What do you want to tackle next? Or are we done? AKA Leslie and Burke. AKA the public indecency drunk and the property damage drunk is a cursed case. It has been passed from unsuspecting officer to unsuspecting officer for 10 years. On January 29, the unsolvable case made its way to you. Why you accepted it, it is unclear. Every officer, and indeed most civilians in Jamrock, know it's unsolvable. You were so drunk you didn't remember what it was when you signed on. That, or you were high. Leslie will always take his pants off when he's drunk. Burke will always trash everything. It's just what they do. It is their nature. You cannot change the nature of a man. And you can't lock them away because public indecency and small-scale property damage are not punishable by incarceration. The only way for Leslie to stop displaying his genitals and for Burke to stop attacking things would be for them to stop drinking alcohol, which in their 40s or 50s, it's hard to tell because of their distorted features, is a medical improbability. You would think that, but you're wrong. Where's the fun in exposing your genitals or breaking stuff in your own home? No, Leslie and Burke are on the corner of Main Street and Perdition, because that's where the action is. Can you keep yourself off the streets? Threatening fines, dragging them to the station, locking them up in the hellholes they live in, locking them up in the station, hypnotherapy, even trying to get the local gang of Zemyaki to take them out. The Zemyaki gave them ethanol, so Burke and Leslie would expose and rampage even harder. You tried it all, and still the complaints wouldn't stop, as they hadn't stopped for 10 years. It's plain to see from the files that you, Satellite Officer JV, and Special Consultant TH had more important cases to attend to. You uncover cross-reference to several ongoing investigations, each brought to a standstill every time you drive down Main Street. Because there they are, on the corner of Perdition. And what is Leslie doing? Good, you're learning. If the files are to be trusted, that's all there is to it. That and Burke breaking things, and the fact that they're both drunk. But then again, so are you. The case becomes considerably less comic one day when Burke takes a swing at your ledger. He must have it confused with the property he likes to damage. But the joke's on him. You're drunk out of your mind on potent Pilsner. You slam the hardened plastic board in his face. Then you proceed to beat him unconscious with it. In the process, the ledger sustains damage. The compartment within, reserved for permeable documents, is jammed shut. You stop your assault on the now unconscious Burke to open it, but are unable to do so. The officer began to cry, reports Leslie, who, at this point, is tending to Burke. Kill them. They broke it. He came at us, and at us. I think he was trying to kill Burko. While trying to kill Burko, you slowly come around. The permeables compartment is open. You've smashed it open on poor Burko's kneecaps. The good news is, Burke can't walk anymore. Can't get out of his apartment, an invalid. With Burke to tend to, Leslie cuts back on the indecent exposure. Maybe he flashes his genitals to Burke. Who knows? But both drunks are off the street. The complaints stop. The unsolvable case is solved. Which is also why the officer responsible narrowly escapes a disciplinary hearing. The end. Do you want to read another one? It would be very interesting to read about these, wouldn't it? I mean, there seems to be a square-shaped entry wound in the victim's forehead. She's been sitting there for weeks, on her rocking chair, with a square hole in her skull, staring at the wall, her mouth agape. That's all you got. From the half hour you spent piecing it together, all you know is the entry wound was square-shaped. You never found the bullet. And then another body showed up, also with a square hole in his forehead. Toxicology showed the entry wound was laced with an incredibly potent psychoactive substance called HUV4-nil. No street name. Who knows? Those pages are missing. What next? Don't worry. One day you may still catch the man with the square gun. Some assholes brought their couch outside and hung out on it. In the middle of the street, on the roof, on the hillside by the motorway. You know, at an unexpected location. They were young, and they thought they looked cool on it. Yes, as you said here, insufferable rock and roll assholes. Young people are the worst. So anyway, you got a complaint about the damn sofa, or couch, or whatever it was. They were leaving it out in all these unexpected and whimsical locations. They took it to where they also took photos of themselves on it, and smoked cigarettes, and drank coffee because they felt it's intellectual. Cigarette butts, coffee cups, stupid couch. You had to clean it all up, and you did. So congratulations to you. Case solved. No, you didn't have time for that. These notes show that you have what is called a real goddamn job. You don't have time to be chasing down the couch assholes. You have a real job to do. What next? Murder. Tum-tum-tum at the hookah parlor was a case originally assigned to an officer called Joseph Mills, who is now dead, of circumstances completely unconnected to murder at the hookah parlor. Joseph Mills was on this case that he just couldn't solve, was doing it solo, said it was a real nutcracker, a real brain twister, was on it for, like, a month. The captain got impatient. Shit or get off the pot, Mills. Mills didn't get off the pot. Not yet. He kept at it for a couple of weeks more, racking his brains, running with every theory, as outlandish as they seemed. Still couldn't solve the murder at the hookah parlor. Tough case, he said. Tough. No, he was awful. Awful sense of humor, too. The worst jokes you've ever heard. Really rapey. Still, he'd been on it for months now. Said it was the final case. Said it was uncrackable. That murderer had vanished into thin air. That goddamn hookah parlor was all he talked about. Okay, so the case is handed to you because Mills isn't getting anywhere, and you look into it. Here's the setup. A young man is found dead in a hookah parlor. You know, those places where you go and smoke bubblegum-flavored vapor all day. No, it's soot and water vapor. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, so anyway, young man in his 20s found with his skull busted open, right on the floor of the hookah parlor, in the middle of the day. No one else is in there. Only client that day. In perfect health, too. Some kind of movie producer. No one enters. No one exits. He's just sucking on his watermelon hookah all morning, all noon, like he usually does. He's a regular. No calls, nothing. Just sucking on the hookah until 15:45. Then bam, he's dead on the floor with his skull busted open, blood everywhere. What happened? How can it be? Mills has no idea. Invisible assassin, movie deal gone sour. Girl at the counter did it. Nothing fits. Eerie. Man just dropped dead. So you go to the parlor. You see cushions around the table. Tables low, heavy, really sharp edge. See? You can't even read the thing without solving it. Yeah, it was that. Turns out hookah does do something. It turns off your brain's oxygen supply, and you don't notice it until you get up to go to the bathroom. Smoking hookah. Didn't you hear? I don't know. Trying to come up with a movie script, maybe. Anyway, that was Murder at the Hookah Parlor. Joseph Mills wasn't a good detective, and about 30 minutes has passed piecing it together. Next. Not much has changed in the meanwhile. A bunch of sodden papers still sags from the clipboard. In the back, you see thin, translucent copy paper. Some neon yellow, some bright red, all covered in boxes, like marching armies. These look like official forms, waiting to be filled out. Then rip them from the binder and hand them out, according to type of form. 3. The topmost are misconduct fines, the middle ones are station calls, and the bottommost are field autopsy forms. Each is easy enough to make sense of. You don't have to be an intellectual giant to do police work. A monetary penalization ranging from 20 to 250 rial. Severe cases allow for 1,000 rial, but that requires special paperwork. The details of issuing these fines are spread out over the rest of the fields. But they appear pleasantly vague, a tool for manipulation. Give the lowest amount and people will be ingratiated to you. The rest of the stinking cellulose is much worse for wear. Being sandwiched between the board and the rest of the paperwork must have spared the fragile copier paper. Thin, see-through copier paper. These are quite sinister in tone. They give a date and time for the person to appear at the specified precinct police station. Below the call are the criminal charges you risk by not appearing. All in a print so small it could be considered downright cute. These are quite sinister. All in a print so... A dozen pages of thin copy paper, bright red in color. You see the parameters of a deceased human form waiting to be filled in. Age, sex, condition of internal organs, color of the irises, predation marks, condition of sexual organs.
Good, yes. We can return to the dead body. By now it smells exquisite.
Yes, all that remains now is to fill those forms and hand them to people. Fines for wrongdoers, interview requests for bad guys, and field autopsies to dead guys. What delicious power hid within this pathetic mess. You feel better. The rest of the stinking cellulose is much worse for wear. Being sandwiched between the board and the rest of the paperwork must have spared the fragile copier paper. It's made of dark blue plastic, hard enough to beat someone to submission with. The edges are rounded, however. The U4 size board feels thick and heavy in your hand. Light shimmers on its wet surface. On the back you see the embossed letters, RCM. Something rattles inside, ever so lightly. Is there a hidden compartment? And something small inside, light, made of paper or cardboard, or dried flowers perhaps. Permeables. It's not hidden per se. The compartment is made for permeable materials that would get damaged if something happened to it. The plastic shimmers like lapis lazuli, but it is not see-through. You cannot see to its center. There's something there, a rectangular shape, like a card or a postcard. There's pain in there, if you want some. That much you know. Blue. The blue heart. Don't look into it. With your hands, U4-sized pages hang from the clip screwed to the top of the board. The acidic stench of rotting food is rubbed off on the cellulose. It now forms the base of the experience. This base surrounded by a faint air of spoiled meat, the stuff of death itself, and then sprinkled liberally with the citrus zest of toilet cleaner. You know, like the bits they put into public piss bowls, probably called Fermi Discrete, or Axle, or something. At some point in its journey, the ledger has seen the inside of a public toilet. Remember when I said the smell of the upstairs bathroom was so rank they should have sent a poet to describe it? Why, yes it is, among many other things. This cleaning tablet is used by the whirling in rags. Perhaps that's where the ledger was dropped in the toilet. By you. Lonesome, long way home. Here we go. Home awaits. Walk past Station 41 and through the market, past the Boogie Street spearhead to the other side of the lake, the frozen eye at the center of the district. Then past the video rental store on the corner. There, at the end of a street lined with pine trees, a small house no larger than a matchbox. 11 Voyager Road. You no longer live there. Those times are gone. And so are those people. Why did you come here? Why are you still here? And where's the dealer? You have to get back to work. That's all you have now.
Before I squeal.
Fuck does Kuno care? Yeah? The kingdom of Kuno? The fuck do you want with it? Yeah, Kuno doesn't know shit about that. That shit is beneath Kuno. Shoot that shit at Kuno? Dumpster diver? Dunno. Kiptas gardener used to work there?
Kipt is a pejorative term used to describe people of South Seminese or Areopagite descent. It used to be a common first name among the Areopagites of Ilmara. Not so much anymore.
The fuck does this have to do with the Kuno? Kuno doesn't give a shit who she is.
You were expecting relaying this information to him to be more rewarding, right? Telling him you found out she isn't a gardener. You know what you should do if you want to get rewarded? Drugs. Drugs are more rewarding than work. Or alcohol, if you don't want to do drugs. Alcohol is just as rewarding, but it isn't a drug. This has been going on for quite a while, hasn't it? You've been thinking about drugs and alcohol for a long time now. Juicy drugs. Tasty alcohol. Seems kinda boring now, going back to... What was this about? Some yard? Yards aren't interesting. Only drugs are interesting. Drugs and alcohol. You feel sad now, but what can you do? Life has to go on. With a heavy sigh, you say...
Look at that fucking shit! You're trying to get Kuno killed! Fuck does Kuno know? Kuno's not a fucking acrobat.
Kuno knows the ladder is unclimbable. The lieutenant takes a quick note in his notebook.
It's a trap, Kuno! Don't climb it, Kuno!
Yeah, whatever. Kuno doesn't give a shit. Kuno doesn't fucking care.
Amphetamine. Sweet amphetamine. Maybe this Kuno kid knows where to find more. The lieutenant isn't studying the powder in the mirror. He's studying you. There's a good vague way to ask where he stands on drug use. Professionally, I mean.
Perhaps not. This is below our pay grade, detective. However, see that ladder there? It's probably another way into the industrial harbor, no? A secret path the local kids use.
Looks like someone left his tarpaulin cloak hanging on the railing here. Man down, a trooper has been left behind the enemy lines. You could swear it's more of an instinct than an actual sight. But you know, there's the RCM signature rectangle on the cloak. It's a cop's cloak.
Yes, it's probably yours. It bears the RCM insignia, and you have a habit of being careless with your equipment. You could probably make the jump. You look like you've done some track and field in your day.
The wind is aggressive up here. The lieutenant looks at the enormous crane towering in the distance over the container yard. The look in his eyes is a mix of the engineer-like interest and the wonder of a 6-year-old seeing a horse for the first time. That machine is a Kvalsund 1020 HK.
Is it? Kvalsund makes a lot of heavy equipment, but this is phenomenal, even for them. But I digress. We were focusing on your cloak here. I was under the impression we are on our way to meet the king of this castle under siege, Evrard, one of the people we are interviewing. This way we may be able to get around his henchmen. Or it could be that we are just exploring.
He's thinking you've forgotten where you are again.
The cloak? I do think it's yours, yes. As to whether you should go for it? Well, it doesn't seem too dangerous. 2-meter stops. Whenever you're ready to do it, I'll be right behind you.
The cloak looks like a bag of goodies floating in the wind. Who knows what its pockets may hide? As you leap in the air, a chilly breeze engulfs you, sharpening your senses. Ankles tingling from the tension, blood roaring in your ears. You are ready for your rendezvous with the concrete pavement below. Martinez goes about its daily routine as you soar through the air. The loud voices of protesters mix with the engine sounds from the traffic jam. Waves crash against the pier, and dense, salty sea air fills your lungs. Also, you should be having a drink right now. You should have a bottle of alcohol in your hand right now. The corpse is dominating the yard, and the stench is nauseating. Even so far from the epicenter, it brings tears to your eyes. We'll take care of that body too. We'll take care of all of it. As the concrete floor welcomes you, you realize it's been a while since you felt so alive, alert, capable. Must be the adrenaline.
I knew you could do it. My climbing down might not have been as disco as your jump, but at least we can explore the harbor now.
With your feet firmly planted on the concrete, the noise of the harbor rushes back in. All those empty wine bottles and cigarette butts on the ground. Someone partied really, really hard here. Well, they went through 6 bottles of potent Pilsner, 3 bottles of Commodore Red, and almost 4 packs of cigarettes. It must have been pretty hard.
Well, yes, I think we can say with relative confidence that it was you. Yes, this looks pretty advanced, all right. For now, let's just move on.
This is the night watchman's booth. The name on the door reads, René Arnaud.
If you must. But please hurry, we are pretty easy to spot up here.
Nothing incriminating catches your eye. The cabinets are clean and their sparse contents meticulously organized. There's a framed photograph on the table. Looks like the inhabitant is rather pedantic when it comes to order. It's a black and white photo of a young couple out in a street fair. The man is young, dark-skinned, and dressed in a Royal Carabinieri uniform. The girl is smiling playfully at the camera. The young man looks happy as well. He's about to smile. Right after this moment, frozen in time. You're sure of that.
Why did you take that? Fine, but let's move. I don't want to be seen snooping around here.
This is the night watchman. Several knobs. 2 buttons marked Marche and Arrête are faded with use. It seems to control the large crane above. A container is attached to its hook block. Marche. On. Arrête. Off.
Yes?
Container, container, I'll turn you nice and red. Container, container, put the logos on.
The lyrics to this container song are being made up as he goes along. The accent is so thick, it's impossible not to notice he's Ubi, from the vanishing peninsula of Ubisunt on Muindi.
Container, container, used to be Wild Pines. Container, container, now belongs to Everard. Everard, 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 he looks after everyone. Huh? Well, hey there. How can I help you, mister?
The look in his deep blue eyes is as sincere as you've ever seen. Kind of makes you feel like an arsehole for no apparent reason.
I see you are not a union man, mister. Did you get lost? You're not one of them scabs, are you? I mean, I don't personally mind. Folks is just folks, you know, and folks gotta eat. Just some of the other guys don't look too kindly on the scabbing kind, if you know what I mean, mister. Oh yes, born and raised in Irish, mister. Mum had to leave my dad after he got a bit violent. Took us here to the new world. I was about 10 then, too old to lose my accent then. People say us Ubis are up to all sorts of trouble with sheep and other animals and whatnot. I just want you to know there was never any of that where I come from. No, sir. Those are just nasty rumors.
Thank you for clarifying that, sir.
Oh, most of the guys are down at the gates, keeping the scabs from coming in. We're on a strike. The whole union is. You don't have to work when you're on strike. Ha! We haven't worked for 2 months now.
So no one is working?
Not everyone is down there, of course. Mr. Everard is in his office, where he always is, and Jean-Luc is guarding the gate. But Titus and his boys got into some drunken trouble and Everard sent them on a nice vacation, for a week or so. Oh, I'm not really supposed to talk about that. That's union business. Him and his boys stirred up something in town, probably drank too much and got into a fight or something. I heard Mr. Everett telling them to take some time off.
Don't go all bad cop on this simple, friendly fellow.
No, I don't think they killed anyone. Let's better talk about something else. Titus and his boys do good work. I don't want to get them in trouble over a little drinking.
He probably doesn't know anything anyway. Who in their right mind would tell him?
Oh, I'm just making some covers for them containers here. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So it's easier for the crane operators to spot them.
The containers in the yard are green in Wild Pine's livery, and the mountains rising behind Leo is all red in Union colors. It's like some red infection was spreading outwards from the container yard's core. There appear to be cisterns underneath the Union container covers.
Yes, they are hiding it from the inside. All the red containers have the Debarders Union logo on them.
No, not really. Mr. Everett doesn't tell me all the big things. Says I go and tell them to everyone. Oh, I don't know, mister. They say it's some chemicals. Most of them have labels on them, I think. Oh, no trouble at all, mister. No trouble at all. Yes, everybody needs a job, and this is mine. I'm Leonard, by the way. Leonard Bellick. But everyone calls me Leo. I'm like Mr. Everett's right-hand man when Mr. Edgar is out of town, and Mr. Edgar's right-hand man when Mr. Everett is away. Actually, Miss Beaufort is the right-hand man, but she's a lady.
Who is this, Miss Beaufort?
A real pretty lady with a skin like those Douai Sucre candy bars my missus likes so much. Them are real nice to suckle on once the dinner is done and me and the missus sit down beside the radio. But I can't listen to the radio all the time. There's so much to do around here and I'm always busy keeping things running here. Yes I am, yes I am.
Stay on this Miss Beaufort topic.
Oh, Lizzie, she is a real sharp tool. Mr. Everett put her through some fancy school and everything, east of the river. 4 years she was gone, and when she came back, she was all fancy and lawyerly.
He respects that word. That's obvious.
But she's a real nice girl. Grew up in this here neighborhood, knows everybody and gets along with everyone. Real pillar of the community one day, I'm sure.
For a fraction of a second, there's sadness in his eyes.
If me missus and me was to have a child, I'd be real happy if she turned out like her. But she can't have kids. Dr. Lemaitre said so, and she knows about such things. Been a doctor for almost 50 years she has.
Law school? Could she be talking about the union fixer, aka the gardener?
Looks like it.
I'm not sure what a fixer is, but she is a real nice girl. Smart as a whip too.
Telling the gardener you know her name might throw her off. Perhaps something to consider later.
Oh, that one. That should be empty as far as I know. Lots of containers here have nothing in them. They're just waiting to be loaded up. Oh, you want Mr. Everett then? He's an awfully nice fellow, he is. Him and his brother are both nice fellows. They've lived their entire lives in this here neighborhood. Guys like Mr. Everett and Mr. Edgar, his brother, are real good guys. Made Martinez what it is today. Mr. Everett and Mr. Edgar and I went to the same school we did when we were boys.
Patience. Deep down you have the mental power to keep listening. Not many would, but you do.
Had an arithmetics teacher, Miss Bellows. Her real name was Miss Bellams. She was a real pretty lady, but when she got mad... all the boys liked her, if you know what I mean, mister. We used to sneak in her yard in the dark and peek through the window. One time we saw Miss Bellows with a fellow. Yes, we did, mister. Yes, we did, mister. Indeed we did. Him was a big fellow. Used to drive the Troika near ours' school and everything. Them was all naked too. That's all I got to say about that. Thank you, mister. Almost forgot. Mr. Everett is usually in that container over there, but he already left for the day. He never stays after 10 p.m. Bye-bye now.
A large table with 2 huge vacuum-insulated thermal coffee dispensers. Someone has forgotten a small plastic card next to the stacks of cups. Peer into a discarded coffee cup. You see nothing exceptional. It's a dirty cup, smudged brown, with old ground coffee stuck to the bottom, slowly getting moldy. You throw the cup back into the trash bin. You snatch up the red plastic card. It features a black contour of a crane lifting a container. The name, Etienne Hogarth, is written in the middle. Below it, in smaller text, member of the board. It comes with a magnetic strip meant to open electronic doors. The crane shifts overhead, moving a massive metal container through the air. With a surprisingly quiet thunk, the crane places the container down. This crane was built with a purpose, which has now been fulfilled. To move this container. Who can say? All you know is, it's special.
I can't see how that was worth the wreckers, except for seeing the crane in action, which I admit was satisfying.
Before you stands a cargo container, just one of many in the yard.
You do? Because I don't. There are a million containers here. Why are you fixating on this one? There may very well be, but we are not here to look for that. We are not here to interact with containers. We are here to interview the Union boss.
You attempt to turn the handle, to no avail. The doors seem to be mechanically locked. To your left, the lieutenant considers your actions, with some puzzlement. No reply. The knock produces a hollow ring of metal. Doesn't sound like there's anything inside the container. Despite the dirt that surrounds and trails you, a beacon of light emerges from deep within you. The door stands silent.
Satisfied, detective?
Try again. Just like that, you hear a click, then a rattle. Some mechanism unlocks itself inside the door.
Ahoy! Come on in!
You can't be serious.
The man stands at the far end of the shipping container. It's hard to say anything more about him. You cannot make out any of his details, but you do feel the overwhelming presence of capital. The feeling causes all the hairs on your body to stand at attention, like soldiers preparing for review. Something's amiss. The light beams bend around his face and scatter in 1,000 directions. It seems the laws of physics do not apply here. They are suspended, distorted, and echo. Trying to visualize the physics at play is liable to give you an aneurysm. Don't think about it too hard. In the general stillness, only your tongue moves, flickering as you utter.
Welcome. Come in. Make yourself at home. Sorry, I'm not better able to receive you. I wasn't expecting visitors today.
You can't hear him exactly, yet you're able to understand every word he says. It is very strange. An overwhelming hum covers everything. Voice doesn't escape from him.
Now, what can I do for you, gentlemen? Who am I? Oh, I haven't been asked that question for such a long time. I don't meet a lot of people outside my circle these days. Anyhow, my name is Rustam Theodore, investor, license holder, and extremely high net worth individual. And you are?
Mr. Theodore, I am Lieutenant Kim Kitsuragi of the RCM, and this is my partner.
Pleasure to meet you. Public service is a noble cause. To be perfectly blunt, I inherited my fortune from my grandmother, who herself was an extremely high net worth individual back in Grad. All I did was take her fortune and invest it prudently, Believe it or not, it takes more than a bit of skill not to blow a vast fortune on sailing boats, bad choices, and unsupervised state policy.
And blow. Actually, at the level this guy is, it takes several generations to do that. But, alright.
I gotta tell you, at first, being rich is a lot of work. You've got to work hard because everything's so darn expensive. You know, prices increase exponentially at this income level. But then, once you've reached my position, it's nearly impossible for me not to make money. My assets are so diversified that I'm bound to come out ahead no matter what. Some of my lower net worth friends say to me, but doesn't that take all the fun out of it? And I tell them, not really. Which one? The Revachol, where I nominally reside, or Graal, where my father immigrated from, or Ile-de-Cachebro, where I've registered my shell companies? Listen, if capital and nationalism went hand in hand, there'd be no need to ask the question. States are akin to boulders in a river, slowing the free flow of ideas. Given enough time, the water will wear those boulders down. It is truly, it's almost entirely carefree. It really leaves you time to better yourself spiritually.
Hey, all this talk about money has made you lose the thread. What is going on with the light in this place? That's what you need to ask him about.
Traveling. This is a great way to get around. It's fun, it's safe, and it gives me lots of time to think.
Wouldn't say it's exactly safe now, but financially secure individuals are known adrenaline junkies.
By the way, let me now ask you a question. Where are we exactly?
In the very, very early days of colonizing this archipelago, the kingdom of Sirens, a precursor of a modern Sur-le-Clay, used to own the city of Revachol, an obscure detail in the bigger picture, but still worth dropping.
Revachol. I remember walking its streets as a teenager. There used to be a bowling alley in Stella Maris. I wonder if it's still there. It's a shame I can't get out and explore myself. One of the downsides of being an extremely high net worth individual is that mobs of low net worth individuals are constantly banding together to ask for money. There simply aren't enough hours a day to handle all the handouts. It's like feeding seagulls. There are always more, and they never seem to do anything interesting with it, except more seagulls. Spending money is a matter of desire. I'm sure you agree. I don't have the desire for spending it like that. Smart, you know? It also provides a means to hide from all the targeted advertising we extremely high net worth individuals are constantly subjected to. Luxury yachts, high fidelity portable radio systems, fail-proof outerwear, and so on. It just gets a bit middle class after a while. A bit bourgeois. Don't get me wrong. They're nice things, but once you achieve a certain level of wealth, your time and mental space become much more important than material goods.
He speaks from the heart. He has very different problems compared to low net worth individuals such as yourself. For example, no problems at all.
What? No, I did not say that at all. Being rich is great. Just don't tell anyone I told you that. What do you mean? Are you talking about my chin? Oh, that's what you mean. Yes, I've heard of this effect. though I've never witnessed it myself, of course. It has something to do with our Weiss-Wiesemann coefficient.
The Weiss-Wiesemann coefficient is a ratio designed to reflect the difference in net worth between individuals. When the coefficient is close to 1, or 100%, it means one person possesses all the net worth. Among that group of individuals, it's been observed that when the Weiss-Wiesemann coefficient reaches about 0.96 or so, the laws of physics begin to bend around the high net worth individual. The Weiss-Wiesemann coefficient for you and this individual appears to be 0.9998, repeating. That's not good for you.
Among other things. But calm down. I'm but a lowly single-digit billionaire. That's good.
I see nothing of the sort. To be frank, all I see is a gentleman who's unusually well dressed for Martinez, in a cargo container, which I admit is odd.
Yes, I imagine that does look strange to you. My container.
I don't see how it's appropriate for a representative of the law to ask a wealthy person for money. This shines a bad light on the RCM, if you catch my meaning.
Come now. There is not even a cent of corruption here. I'm merely being polite. So, let me check my pockets. As you may know, us high net worth individuals do not have a lot of cash on hand. Investments and liquidity are enemies of one another. I think I only have coins for coffee machines. Here is 3 real. How much can you get for this?
Unbelievable. You managed to meet a man who's so rich, light literally bends around him, and all you can get out of him is 3 real? What's wrong with you?
You're welcome. You know, maybe you can make that money grow. Come up with an investment plan. How's that sound?
This is a proposal, not a question. These ultra-liberal types love losing huge sums of money on ludicrous proposals. Ergo, you should come up with a plan that's totally dead in the water. What's worse than throwing money at something that's already failed?
Go on. I'm ready.
Nicking an idea that wasn't worth anything in the first place and trying to pass it off as your own? How very entrepreneurial. I love it.
Hold on. Have we met before? Yeah, on second thought, it couldn't have been you. Your idea reminds me of a group of young men who came to me a long time ago, calling themselves Fortress Accident. The name should have been a red flag. They pitched me and a handful of other investors on an idea for a role-playing game that would, in their words, change the world. Well, at first everything was rosy. The ideas were solid, but they were lacking in... how do I put it? They lacked the will to get things done. As their financial situation became more desperate, their ideas devolved from realistic to absolute insanity. We lost all of our money. High art types never deliver. They're only good for peddling Wilkins or whatever creeps they come up with.
I guess the inordinate amount of time they put into drawing mythical creatures did not generate a return on investment.
Sadly, when we got there, it was too late. The concept had run out of steam. Only dust remained. What I want to tell you is this. It's a very bad idea. Dead in the water. You seem like a reasonable man, but that is not a reasonable plan.
Okay, well, maybe I was wrong. We've all learned something today.
You're welcome. Now, was there something else I could help you with? Why go so soon? I feel we've so much more to talk about. Well, until next time.
An imposing combination of a punch clock and a payphone is looking down at you from the wall. A note on the side says, "Tokens unavailable due to strike. Use change." The machine swallows your coin and seems to be waiting for your next move. Your fingers run over the dial pad. 005. That's the dialing code for Revachol. 4952. And a moment of hesitation before entering the final numbers. 993. Calling. Calling. Still calling. Then...
Video Revachol, 24-hour video rental. You rent 8 and 10mm film for home use. This is Lummy. How may I help you?
The voice of a youngster on the other end sounds as enthusiastic as that of a man walking towards the gallows.
Video Revachol is a 24-hour video rental. We rent 8 and 10mm film for home use. This is Lummy. Sir, I don't know. It's a video rental. Maybe you rent videos here. No. Maybe you called to extend your rental period? Do you need to extend your rental period? If you need any further assistance, you can visit us on the corner of Voyager and Main. I can't help you over the phone. Are we done?
He thinks you're pulling a prank on him. On the corner of Voyager and Main, a large neon sign hangs on the side of a building. Video Revachol, 24 hours. It's raining and there is almost no traffic on the street. A woman's footprints in the mud lead away from the front door. Tiny heels tiptoeing down the road. Beautiful steps, light-footed with a lifetime ahead of them. You look up and the air seems to grow darker. Suddenly you feel like you don't want to hear about video rentals anymore. You don't want to hear about any of it. It was all shit. It's over.
That's enough for you today. Let's conclude this call.
It. The front of this quarterly journal features a large satirical portrait of the late King Friesel. From the sides of his head, a pair of white antlers spread to the corners of the cover. Because white antlers are one of the symbols of communism, they represent a society in accord with the natural world and at the same time above it. A shameful way to treat a former king, even one as underwhelming as Friesel. Because Friesel was incompetent, foolish, and cruel. In short, the embodiment of everything the communards wished to overthrow. It's satire, you see. To your disappointment, there aren't any full-color pictures to direct your attention. Just column after column of closely set text, interrupted occasionally by little doodles in black and white. No advertisements, you notice. So who's funding this radical commentary? After rifling the pages with your thumb several times, you return to the table of contents. The magazine is divided into several sections: international development, Kunst und Kultur, and local concerns. Just inside the cover, there's also an editor's note. Comrade, as you know, this journal takes its name from Mazov's immortal expression, Du cristal à la fumée. This was his way of describing the way the rigid, crystalline structures of capitalist ideology turned to smoke under communism. But, like the structures of capitalist ideology, we too are at risk of going à la fumée, unlike many publications which are content to spoon-feed their readers reassuring drivel. La Fumée is committed to telling the radical truth, even when that truth may drive away potential subscribers. Only 4 issues in, and it sounds like they've already alienated their readership. Perhaps they've overestimated the market demand for this kind of commentary. So please, if you value our radical Mazovian perspective on contemporary politics, culture, and international affairs, please consider subscribing today. Yours in struggle, the editors.
What do you expect? It was laying around the office of the Debarders Union. They're probably bankrolling the thing.
You flip back to the front of the magazine. The table of contents unfolds before you. This section includes a long, tedious critique of the latest round of free trade negotiations between the EPIS nations and the Free State of Semenine. You also skip over an article about heavy fuel oil smuggling along the Messina border, something about bear wrestling in Samara, book riots in Yugograd. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bear wrestling. Flip back to that. It seems to be part of a new public fitness initiative in the People's Republic of Samara, SRV, devised and promoted by none other than President Kanajinsky himself. According to this extremely credulous account, Uncle Sport, as he's affectionately known to his people, has recently decreed bear wrestling the national sport of the SRV. Of course not. The article makes plain that this is man on bear, or in some cases, woman on bear competition. 2 competitors, 1 ring, 5 rounds, or until incapacitation. According to the SRV's Ministry of Information, the program has been a tremendous success. Public support stands at 87%, and youth obesity and alcoholism rates are down 12% and 7% respectively. This is the SRV we're talking about. If you think those are the real numbers, there's probably a guy who wants to sell you a bridge in Lachette. That's very much the idea. President Kaczynski has long maintained that a strong body is the best defense against capitalist aggression. In shape, out of shape, you've always preferred to rely on your wits.
The Samaran People's Republic? No, I should expect not. Why do you ask? I suppose that would be something to see.
You flip back to the front of the magazine. The table of contents unfolds before you. It takes a moment, but gradually it dawns on you that Kunst und Kultur must mean arts and culture. Why they decided to title this one section in Volda is beyond you. Obviously because it's cool to drop random phrases in foreign languages. It evokes a sense of recognition and fellowship among those privileged enough to understand. As you leaf through this section, you come across several reviews of recent radio plays, as well as a brief artist spotlight featuring a local artist identified only as CS. The main feature, though, is a long essay titled Tip Top Tournée, a critical Mazovian perspective. The Tip Top Tournée is an inter-Isolari racing series, mostly known for its high speeds, ludicrous sponsorship deals, and high death toll. in Revachol is held quadrennially on the prestigious Zero Carousel racing circuit. This so-called artist spotlight is really just a brief Q&A, made all the briefer by the subject's evident hostility to her interviewer. You think you're settling in for a relaxing recap of the most recent season, maybe sprinkled with some nice anecdotes about a few of the more colorful drivers. Instead, you find yourself skimming a 10,000-word feature about all the politically problematic aspects of Tip Top Tourney. Where to even start? For one, there's the crass commercialism of its sponsorships, and then there's the practically criminal emphasis on deadly motor crashes. So, all of it, basically. Oddly enough, this article has 2 bylines, Nazteb Encolada Bernal and Exilus Buka. There's no way those are real names. Have you ever met anyone named Exilus? Come on, they're plainly pseudonyms. More than that, they're likely anagrams. Under capitalism, the article says, every pursuit has its price. Every pleasure, even one as elemental as the joy of racing others around a track, is reduced to an advertising opportunity. Thus, the so-called tournée becomes a competition between increasingly meaningless brand signifiers. Your discount laundry detergent racing against a pack of Astra cigarettes, or even a Fritta. And that precisely is what's problematic about it. Were it not for the promise of random, spectacular violence, audiences would quickly lose interest. At the end of the day, it's the destruction of these 750,000 real races that you're really watching for. Sure, you think that, but subconsciously, it's the visions of brand names being engulfed in flames that you crave. This flimsy magazine is right. Deep down, you know the only true stakes are life and glory, or death by fiery dismemberment. That's because you haven't been reading critically. But don't worry. The whole point of these sorts of articles is to let someone else read critically for you.
I can safely say the thought had never crossed my mind, Detective. I'm sure most things are, if the young men who wrote this article are to be believed. If I had to wager, I'd say they've never even seen the inside of a motor, much less a motor race. I take whatever they write with a large grain of salt.
You flip back to the front of the magazine. The table of contents unfolds before you. Unsurprisingly, much of this section is taken up with articles declaring unqualified support for the dock workers' strike. You skim the headlines. Paint the harbor red and white. Martinez tames the wild pines. A city in revolt. First we take Martinez, then we take La Delta. Finally, there's a brief article by the writer, G. Martin, accusing the owner of the Capeside Apartments of illegally attempting to evict certain communist tenants simply for not having paid their rent. According to these editorials, there can be no accommodation with the forces of international capital or their mucilaginous allies in the coalition. Why do communists love puerile insults? And they wonder why they're always being left out in the cold. Judging from the context, it's something very large and fundamental. You should probably know about it already, honestly. You flip back to the front of the magazine. The table of contents unfolds before you. What's this? We're getting reports of normal, reasonable, temperate political opinions somewhere in Martinez. The air suddenly feels calmer, more transparent in a strangely tender way. Perhaps it's the hangover. Perhaps it's a temporary surge of serotonin. But something tells you it's time to become a citizen of the Kingdom of Conscience. It is not a place. It is a moment in time that can only arise in the right circumstances. In all of human history, it's only been achieved a handful of times. Incrementally. Yawn, you'd get there faster with a little speed. Speaking of, when are you going to get on that, bub? History's greatest catastrophes have been brought about by people trying to make the world a better place. Too quickly. That's the genius of Dolores Day. She recognized that progress is meaningless if its gains are lost because of instability. Real, lasting change can only come about gradually, increment by increment. Tisk tisk, just because you live in the present doesn't mean you have the right to place your needs above the needs of the future. You may never live to see the Kingdom of Conscience. Your children may not. Even your grandchildren might not. But that's no excuse not to keep working. What rationality? What sang-froid? What benevolence? What a fucking joke. Do you believe the status quo is preferable to chaos and bloodshed? Then you've never lived through real chaos. Sometimes, in the face of great disaster, defending the status quo is progress. The kingdom is difficult to comprehend, and even more difficult to describe. Partly because humanity will need to discard many of the categories that define and limit it today. The Kingdom of Conscience is post-capitalist. It's also post-industrial, post-ideological, and even post-sexual. What you want is immaterial. The Kingdom of Conscience is coming, whether you like it or not, only very slowly. On second glance, someone has forgotten to properly close one of the drawers.
It's unfortunate for the Union to just leave their paperwork lying around like this.
Let's see what's inside, he thinks. The drawer opens smoothly. Inside is a well-organized selection of brown folders. Hundreds of documents containing logistical data. Two kinds of transactions stand out. Materials coming into Revachol from the outside world, from Muindi, Grad, and even Ilmara. And the same materials being handed over to companies inside Revachol. Kuron, Coal City, La Delta, and Jamrock are listed among the many districts where the imports are being sold. It's hard to make sense of this thicket of company names, dates, quantities, and percentages. You try to focus, but the lines are getting blurry. Whatever's hidden here is hidden well. Concentration isn't enough. Only a trained accountant with a background in logistics would be able to really make sense of it. However, there is a little handwritten note stuck on the side of the drawer. It appears to be a to-do list written in large, uneven capital letters. Remember, Leo, Everart's shoes, special whirling borscht, water Everart's plants, sweep office floor, more banners. All items on the list have been crossed out, and the note itself is crumpled.
Everard Clare, probably, the head of the Debarders Union. Leo must have left it. Nothing incriminating here.
The special borscht seems a bit odd in the list. What is so special about this borscht? code for drugs, booze, blood. Remember, Leo, all items on the list have been crossed out and the note itself is crumpled. The drawer slides shut smoothly.
Body betrays your degeneracy.
Yeah, Measurehead. His body totally betrays his degeneracy.
Your body does not betray your degeneracy. That's a lie. You're in great shape. Don't say anything. Size him up first.
Are you admiring my morphophysiology? It must be frightening to stand in the shadow of this racial pinnacle. Be calm, Sandwich. You are not in danger, because you are not a threat to me. What is this androgynous display of sexual maturity?
Things are not as bad as they look. Sure, you have high blood pressure from metabolizing heroic quantities of ethanol, but you are robustly built. You will survive.
I can see you were once an athlete, then deteriorated in your 20s. It is typical of your haplogroup. Let's blame the failed education system and leniency towards degenerates in your homeland.
Jean-Luc, his body is betraying his degeneracy pretty hard. Maybe you can ask him to leave.
You have succumbed to Al-Ghul. You reek of it. An invisible sword of Al-Ghul emerges from your throat. You cannot see it, but others can. It is making the woman in my company sick. No, you don't. You need to get another drink. Occidental Haplogroup B4 is done giving orders around here. The influence of the ham sandwich race is waning.
Show him the ham still got him.
Willingly calling yourself a ham sandwich, how far the Occidental Haplogroup has fallen. You were once a noble and powerful race. You gave the world eugenics, electricity, and powerful weapons of war like missiles and aerostatic aircraft. You made great gains in metallurgy, race theory, and statecraft. You dominated lesser cultures, like the deformed Hemians and the inexplicably potato-obsessed Khoikos. But now your ascent to the genetic summit has halted. You are obsessed with sadness and with frivolous pop culture. You will be superseded. Isn't that right, babe?
It is, baby, yeah. You know it.
Enough with this begging. You should leave the stage of history with dignity. by inviting the other races to a great world war. Bring your troops to the Simonine Islands and to Boogie Street, and we will pulverize you. When you are gone, we will build a museum for you. The walls will be lined with bottles of Al Ghul, your beloved beverage. Inside, we will store the odes to homosexuality you call art, and your microcephalic skulls.
You could internalize Measurehead's race theory. It would enrich you rhetorically. Well, not as such. What you do with the mastery of advanced race theory is up to you. You could reject the findings, sure, or accept them and become an advanced racist. Ask what kind of races there are first. Classification is core to this stuff.
Do you?
There are 3 categories of race. Type A, the heroic races. Type B, the servile races. And the vile CF race cauldron of pederasty. Which one do you need education on? Those are the Simonese, the Areopagite, and the Occidentals, excluding the Maun, of course. The Maun are riddled with eczema to the point where they find it impossible to smile. They are all lactose intolerant, a common result of inbreeding. A receding genetic pool has led the Maun on reprehensible street parades. In Maun cities like Stadskanal and Vredefort, wearing wooden clogs on their feet and little green tassels on their hats. The Vespertines and Messenians of Vesper and Messina, the ancient Meteorans of Meteo by the golden Pisantic Sea, the Suren of Sur-la-Clé, and even the North Königsteiners, all have Type A race propensities. The other large Mondial civilization, the Mesk, are too yellow and oleaginous to count as a heroic race. True, they are violent and expansionist, but they have a glandular problem. Overproduction of sebum. Sebum is leaking into their brains, making them listen to El Mariachi music and eat toxic minced meat-based food, which in turn only produces more sebum. As proven by the Maun and the Mesk, Occidental Type A is in retrograde. The Simonese and the Areopagite are on the ascent. The indigenous people of this, the Insulindian archipelago. The Simonese inhabit the southern islands. I am Simonese, from the stock of Ulenbuir on Ile de Fantôme. The Areopagites are the master race of the Ile Maran deserts. The Simonese are descendants of the Areopagites. We came here during a heroic migration from Ile Marat to Ansuland, thousands of years before the lactose-intolerant Maun Occidentals discovered this place. The Areopagites are sleek, long-headed. The Simonese are powerful, mesomorphic. The former is an immutable progenitor, unchanged since the Super Isola of Pericarnassus. Ancient brains rest in their slender skulls. The latter is perfected and adapting. Together they form the Simeno-Areopagite or Simeopagite super race. That is all. There are no more Type A races in the world.
Nature was not capable of more.
Type B are the unheroic races, amorphous non-competitors of the great race. The Khoikos and the Vacholier, they are mud-colored people.
The Khoikos of Grad, Yugo, Zhimsk, Shest et al. Are what you would call white, officer, in a suspect description.
Yes. To an untrained eye, the Khoiko appear white and pinkish, like a hand sandwich. But look into their eyes and you will see. They are of an indistinct color, and so is their skin. Unhealthy, muddy, and ashen. Pinkness is a racial quality that has to be earned through centuries of advanced ballistic warfare and cultural domination that the Grad people have undergone for drinking Al-Rul and smoking the degenerate tobacco herb, and for eating potato. The Khoiko, the countless micronationalities of Grad, are all inexplicably obsessed with potard. The only thing they like more is dividing into microscopic ethnostates, like political amoeba.
Wouldn't he be one for ethnostates?
They are microscopic. The Semino-Areopagite superstate will cover the entire remaining planetary crust, uninterrupted, from Holy Semenine to the Boreal Plateau of Katla. Its leaders will be the genetic epitome of the Semenese and Areopagite stock, elected by nature, not the base inner spoilage called demos. The Vacholians, halfway between Type A and the Racial Cauldron, two makes to know right from wrong. You tried your degenerate little revolution, which was the single greatest failure committed by humans in our 82,000-year history on this planet.
Is it 82,000 years that we've been recording history? You have very little idea of what is happening, but that seems a little off.
The revolution came to Ravachol from Grad, in Zarath-ridden potato carts. It is literally an illness, a prion disease that leaves the parietal and frontal lobe ridden with holes. A soft, sponge-like mass of dementia, hallucination, and paranoia. The revolution is fatal familial insomnia, a hereditary prion condition passed from the Khoiko to the Occidentals. But not sexually, probably through trade routes and potate acid, the prime component of the potato plant. Enough of Tibet mediocrity. Tips CF are a museum of failed chimeric experiments and tragic maladaptations. They are tortured creatures waiting to be put to sleep. Your morbid interest in them worries me. Lesser races like the mosquito, a grotesque mixture of a masked woman and a Semenese man. Only possible if the mother is masked and the father Semenese. The other way around, they fail to produce offspring. The mosquito is born sterile, like a donkey. All they have left is to ride customized motor carriages with hydraulic suspension, listening to aggressive El Mariachi music to vent their impotent despair.
It seems unlikely that two human beings produce genetically sterile offspring.
Then there is the Simino Koiki Chimera. Are you sure you wish to know of the Simino Koiki Chimera? It is not an aesthetic site. The Khoiko, as you know, are very servile, especially when they meet the rich man. Racial scientists have toyed with the idea of crossing the Simonese with the Koiko to produce a super worker of Simonese strength and great servility. This will never happen. The Simonese and the Koiko may have similar interbreeding problems as the mosquito. We will never know precisely. No Simonese man could maintain an erection in the suffocating potato stench of a Koiko woman or Koika.
There is a strange sadness in his tone, a less than heroic melancholy this time. Your eyes bounce to the young woman at his side, twirling her hair. It is light brownish and eyes are a random color.
The heart that pumps the hemoglobin is mysterious, and so is its dark will. Enough of these personal matters. Have you been educated to all the rasotype now?
He does not seem angry, nor does the woman look affected. She just twirls her hair. Perhaps they've been through this and established the record.
You understand nothing. To solve the great race enigma, you have to first ask yourself, what is the race enigma? You have not even worded the mystery, let alone solved it. You need to internalize what you have heard here today, then return to me. This clarity does not come instantly. I cannot possibly imagine what else we have to discuss, Tipere Basholian. Your love for disco music and venereal disease? Racists are generally not very good examples of their race.
Welcome to Revachol. You hear him yell at a redhead woman visiting the Fritter nearby. He must think redheads are immigrants.
I am not like them. I am craniometric perfection. I have taken the trouble to permanently draw a phrenologic grid on my skull and features. This should dispel any doubt.
True, that is a noble cranium, but you got a hard noggin yourself. The drawings are precise and look true to their pseudo-scientific ambitions. One thing, however, it is not entirely free of throwbacks in the phylogenetic tree. His large jaw, for example, could be a trait indicative of criminalism. Also, his earlobes could be smaller.
You exhibit forward projection of the jaw, indicative of schizophrenia and sexual inaccountability. From a purely aesthetic standpoint, the dimple in your jaw makes you look like a baby. This is not craniometry, just an observation. It is impossible to see any more of your bone structure. It is covered in the ravages of Al-Hul. From what remain of your features, I can see fleshy lips, baldness of the head, and long arms relative to lower limbs. This leads me to conclude you are not a police officer. You are a common criminal, an offspring of murderers and sailors from Sur-la-Clé and Vesper, and possibly even the degenerate sheep herders of Ubi. Your racial heritage is uninteresting. It is the same as all Revacholians. Your parents and their parents made the decision to reproduce while under the influence of Al-Hul. That is the only reason you are here.
He's right there. It's almost impossible to get it on unless you're both drunk. It's too scary when people are sober. He does not so much as glance at the object.
Stop showing me your pathetic cup. I have no interest in it.
He had nothing to do with it. Does he strike you as the kind of man who puts mugs into trash?
Don't be vulgar. White or not has got little to do with this. The race enigma runs much deeper than that.
There must be some friction there. He's keeping it well hidden, however.
Mr. Clare is a man of vision and means. He has the will to confront international capital, which is something your race naivistic communists never did. Also, to serve is noble. It takes discipline. Your petulant individualism has only contributed to your race failure. It is lax and moronic. Jam, individualism. You have gotten these ideas from degenerate youth culture, have you not? You have picked them up from rock and roll songs? Rock and roll is moribund. Only Koikos listen to it anymore. There is no life left in it. My people abandoned it long ago. It leads only to neurodegenerative herpes and heroin overdoses. I am not surprised you enjoy it so much. This has happened to many of the side products of the inevitable cultural victory of the Seminoles race. The South Island race, haplogroup A4A. We are the rightful masters of the Insulindian archipelago. We descend from the Areopagites of ancient Pericarnassus and arrived here 4,000 years ago. Millennia before you. We are the future. That is all you need to know. I am a descendant. The narrow streets of Ulumbuir are with me in my genetic dreams. I see young Seminoles women walk into the grey mass on Ile de Fantôme, waiting on immaculate conception from the pay. No, I have heard about it on the radio.
He would be appreciative if you did not further chase this line of inquiry in front of the women.
I'm from Couronne, and no, it is not just in Revachol. The city is central to the Simony strategy. Spreading through its trade networks, our culture will dominate the world. You have heard enough about our phylogenetic secrets for today. You have extinction to come to terms with, and never getting into the harbor. I am not the first line of defense. I am the last. In addition, these so-called Hardy Boys are an effeminate clique of bodybuilders. Their company is spiritually degrading.
You pick up on something artificial in his tone, like he's putting on an act. This is unlike him. He is usually more himself.
Fine. They have recently fallen under the influence of a possibly sexually perverted female vagrant and a narcotics peddler. It's shameful. Find out for yourself. Endomorphic blob.
Interesting. I don't think anything about this. We are wasting our time having this conversation.
Your pedomorphic friend is right. You should leave here with your tail between your legs, contemplating race extinction. I am an immovable obstacle.
The man looks at you, silent and unmoving. His eyes burrow into the remnants of your soul.
You are not Santiago. Santiago is not you. Even the phrenically impaired can see this.
It's clear you like the hard stuff, Brota. Lower intestine. The term is metabolic and circulatory system. Fascism, Brota. Many things, but it's mostly about trusting your gut. Who does your gut tell you is the source of Revachol's problems? Yes, them, but also Women. Women, men of Wu. You don't like them. They're insane. Their idiocy needs to be scrubbed off this world with rubbing alcohol. Wu men need to go back to the fucking kitchen. That's what fascism boils down to. The rest is also important. But the main thing is that Wu men need to know their place. Stomach truth. You're having a stomach truth. Because you've said the hard things that others won't say. The good things, you've said them many times. Okay, yes, let's call it that. Good thinking. That sounds much better. Traditionalism. You like the sound of that. You're going to keep your views, right? Keep your views, Brota. There's a slow, painful growl somewhere in your intestines, knocking on your alcohol-engorged liver. It is one of betrayal and disappointment. As you turn, a bright light catches your eye, making you squint. From a distant sunset, a stage light, flash photography, nowhere in particular. It's just what superstar law officers do. They squint at lights, and they solve shit. Yeah, you have. You're a big dick cop. Dick Mullen. Salam Rocky Bai. Badass on-the-edge disco cop. Time to recede into a ludicrous fantasy world. Here we go. Camera. Lights. With a sudden flash, the world freezes around you, and you along with it. In an iconic monochrome solution, a black silhouette against a rasterized orange world. It's on. A Stars Ryko, one of the finest Zhimsk-made motor carriages ever. An oldie but a goldie. Not many people outside of Grad, and Revachol West too, it appears. Bulky frame, heavy, hardy, looks like a tractor.
A Stash Ryko KK2. That's a classic model. Never thought I'd see another one repainted after what happened last time.
No, only that the motor carriage is typically baby blue, the colors of Sigismund the Great, an ancient Zhimsk ruler. His banners were famously zephyr and white, the colors of the Stars Ryko.
That's, well, yes, exactly it, more or less. Except it was a crowd of them. Tore him out of the vehicle and ran him over with his own tires. They said it was an honor killing, Hussar style. The Zhimsk community protested the trial, flying the colors. 5,000 came to protest.
Correction, 4,395, the fourth largest public protest of a criminal trial in Revachol.
Is that so, officer? I'll take you at your word.
Were you there?
People we are paid to protect. Let's leave it at that. 4 years for murder in Reunion. The perps were remorseful. Their sorry knocked 8 years off the sentence. That's the system.
The prisons in the greater Revachol Industrial Harbor are already full. Prisoners are expensive to maintain. The longer the sentence, the larger the cost.
Could it be another Stash Ryko murder? Honestly, that just doesn't seem like the type of vehicle our dead guy would drive. So my initial guess is the two are not related. Yes, detective? Okay, I'm not going to honor kill anyone over this. But I've seen it blue and white. It's much better that way.
Old monument stands in the middle of the traffic island, pointing toward the sea. It looks as if it's been reassembled piece by piece, secured and mounted in the air with the aid of numerous ropes and rods. A silver plaque on the statue's pedestal reads, "I am Philip III, the Squanderer, the greatest of the Philippian kings of Revachol, son of Philip II, the opulent, father of Philip IV, the insane." Not a good track record of mental health in that family. As you look up, you notice something about the statue. There are some odd indentations on the king's chest piece. Even by the standards of the Philippian kings, old sumptuous Philip was known for his profligacy. Well, he blew through the whole national treasury, starting the decline of one of the penultimate century's greatest superpowers, the suzerain of Revachol. His own maladministration foreshadowed the fall of the monarchy. During the anti-centennial revolution, an end to his family line and the monarchy on the Insulindian Isola. Stories have it that he had his bedroom converted into a treasure chamber, where he stored unfathomable wealth. Krugerrands, bars of gold, ornate weaponry, armor, and various chalices. He called it the Sol Auron. It was obscene. There were whispers he slept on a huge pile of gold-dipped feathers, like some obese dragon, instead of a bed, like a normal person.
The man certainly knew how to live.
But wait, you haven't even heard about his fabled cocaine addiction. You see, old Philippe wasn't just good at squandering the national treasury on gold and ceremonial weaponry, he was also a prodigious snorter of nose candy. Not just any nose candy, though. We're talking Royal Philippian Blow, allegedly twice as potent as the stuff you find nowadays, and purple. Philippian cocaine was purple. That's what the revolutionaries said 150 years later. Right before they emptied out the royal mausoleum and dumped His Majesty's mortal remains in the Elysium Bay. Cocaine. His Majesty's courtiers said it helped him connect with the higher realms beneath the cold waters of the Elysium Bay, thrown there by the revolutionaries after they cleaned out the royal mausoleum. A group of marble pleurons still surround the king's vandalized tomb. A deathly cold wind sweeps up candy wrappers and old newspapers. The original was blown apart by communards, then further damaged during the landing of the coalition's airships during the turn-of-the-century revolution, when Martinez was leveled. Most historians think the coalition's hasty landing may have ultimately saved the statue. If the communards had more time, they would have reduced it up to even finer pieces. Some years ago, a group of liberal, artistically inclined individuals, designers mostly, thought it would be ironic to restore the statue of the most wasteful ruler of Revachol in the poorest part of the city. The statue is supposed to capture the moment it was blown apart, like an instant frozen in time, a rare butterfly trapped in amber, floating on a sea of shit. People in Martinez tend to disagree, as do many prominent art critics and thought leaders with more nuanced social awareness than the young ironists. Those critics might have it wrong, though. There's more to it than just ironism, but you can't say what precisely. Perhaps this art mystery will be solved at a later time. Philip III, the Squanderer, however, with his bronze face up in the air, doesn't seem concerned about what the hoi polloi think of him in death. Not that he ever did in life either. Something with great kinetic energy seems to have impacted the cuirass, around where the heart is. A bullet? Someone shot him in the heart. Interesting.
Okay, I can't see it, but I take your word for it. Well, Martinez is riddled with bullet holes. This place saw a lot of action during the revolution. But the statue is recently renovated, so maybe a joke? Target practice or a political statement? Why not? What this shows us is guns aren't too uncommon here, and people still shoot them, sometimes at kings.
The king stands high above you, surveying the bay, mute and indifferent to your sightings. The small, wrinkled woman does not greet you. She nods along to something on her radio. A photograph is clutched in her hands, and there is a warm smile on her face. The photo, an ambrotype from the turn of the century, as golden as her smile. It's the warmth of a winter night's fire. Maybe she could give you comfort and shelter, some cigarettes and food money. Maybe she's your... No response. Wherever this woman is, your words fail to reach her. Nothing. Her smile just keeps widening. Her hair is gray like lead. No, this one is a monster in disguise.
Wait. She's just a distracted old woman. Better to leave her alone. Why? I just told you why.
surrounding blaze of the electric lights makes the white-on-blue police livery of the motor carriage seem beautifully ominous. Do something important? Something murder-related? There's always something important. Doesn't mean you can't take a moment to admire this piece of machinery. This is a Caprice Kinema, the Caprice Motor Corps follow-up to their highly successful workhorse, Caprice 40, and the answer to the Lum's racing breed, Ferv series. With its air-cooled, rear-mounted 12-cylinder compression ignition engine, driving the rear wheels through a 4-speed manual gearbox, the Kinema is able to reach 100 kilometers per hour in 13.5 seconds and go on to a top speed of 180 kilometers an hour. Even at a standstill, the unibody Caprice Kinema looks sleek and dynamic. The cabin is tilted frontward to give it a more aggressive, hunched look. Someone has waxed it recently.
You want to take a closer look? Yes, an extraordinary machine.
It's nice and all, but why so modest? Put some zing into it. Flare it up. Slam it down. Helium headlights would improve the range and quality of the visual field a lot. It's a bit girly right now. Fit it with some proper off-road components.
Actually, I have a pair at home. Just haven't gotten around to fitting them yet. I need to lay some wiring for the ballast first. Maybe. Yes, definitely maybe.
And means no.
130.
I reckon that's a 7-liter V12 there. Man, that's got to be a major advancement over the KR18GU engine on the old Caprice 40.
7.2. Supercharged.
Saying these words brings him immense joy.
Yes.
It's nice and all, but helium headlights, it's a bit girly.
Sorry, I'm not following you.
Lingo it up.
No, that's porno tuning.
Use bigger words.
Porno. That's short for pornography.
The sole purpose of pornography is to stimulate one's visual sense to evoke sexual arousal. The same is true with the modifications you're proposing.
That's a negative on the porno. Thank you, though.
No one in the history of convictions has been more sure of anything.
Yes.
It's nice and all. Helium headlight. It's a bit girly.
Sorry.
Lingo it up.
No.
Use bigger words.
Porno.
The sole purpose of pornography.
That's a negative on the porn.
No one in the history of conviction.
Yes.
It's nice and all. Helium headlight. It's a bit girly right now.
We are not going to, though, because this is clearly a sports motor carriage.
Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull-out toolbox, and the soft glow of the fuel preheater gauge.
All right. Ready? I turn, you press start. It's next to the preheater.
He's downplaying his excitement. The lieutenant is more than happy to show off his precious carriage. The dashboard lights up with orange glow. The rounds per minute gauge jumps, and the engine of the Caprice Kinema comes to life with a whiny growl, like a leopard waking from its sleep, yawning and roaring at the same time. That sound, you feel the wind in your hair as if you're already driving. But where? Down a narrow street, lined with shabby wooden houses, the 881 motor tract, coiling like a serpent high above. Children play under the viaduct, eyes turn to watch you as you pass. The Valley of Dogs, and before it, a familiar dome, like a ladybug without the colors. the building has a designated parking place for your carriage. This is Precinct 41, as close as you have to home now. It's far away. The lights unfold with a little click, casting electrical light onto the ground before the vehicle.
There you go. I'll turn them off from the remote once you're done. We just need to stand in front of the machine now.
As you hold your ledger's clip under the headlamp, an iridescent hologram appears. A street grid and the veins of a great river. A familiar sensation washes over you.
There she is. Revachol West.
Around the borders of the watermark are dozens, no, hundreds of micro-perforations. There are many of them, and they are divided into 3 separate rows. The first row has 18 dots. The next is the longest. It runs all the way around the border, and then some. You count 216 perforations. Considering that nice, large number, a wave of pride washes over you, though you can't say why, precisely. The last row has 3 perforations. As you look at them, you feel your index finger reflexively contract 3 times. A memory, an echo in the recesses of your amygdala. The rectangular watermark is overlaid with the logo of the RCM, and yet the major arteries of Revachol are all recognizable. They shimmer in the Kanema's headlights. You catch a faint glimmer from a broken beer bottle. In the distance, sounds. 2 men engaged in a drunken argument, followed by the closing of some distant window. In the middle of a broken plaza, illuminated in a cone of light, 2 men, one slim, the other sturdy. They are on the city stage, but only one of them knows his lines.
Ah, Martinez at night. Let me see. Right here. It has its problems. Those are perforations. They represent your record as an officer of the RCM. They are your statistics, as it were. I should have guessed you'd keep a record. Officers often do. Let's take a look.
Alpha male officers who are proud of their numbers often do. It's meant. Son, here is where we score your life performance. You better hope it's good.
The first row represents your years of service. 18 years. Okay, not bad at all. What did you do before you volunteered? That's what it says. I might have guessed even longer based on your age. What did you do all those blissful years of your youth? Fair point. Let's move on, shall we? This next row, the one that wraps all the way around, is your number of closed cases. Closed is good. It means finished. You've got, let's see... Wow, more than 200. It's quite a lot, even for someone who's been on the force for nearly 2 decades. Usually, clearing more than 10 cases a year puts you in the 90th percentile of all RCM officers.
You know the answer already. The tingle in your index finger gave it away.
That's right. How did you know? Ah, right. Sometimes the brain's able to preserve certain responses even when conscious memory has been, let's say, misplaced. For an RCM officer, especially Precinct 41, which is in the Jamrock Quarter, it's rather tame. I mean that in a good way.
What's it feel like to kill a man, Mr. McCoy? a young woman asked the man across the desk from her. Honestly, babe, says John McCoy, crossing his ankles over said desk. I don't feel anything anymore. It's just like brushing my teeth. I do it once or twice a week and don't really think about it. There's no trace of guilt in his voice.
There are certain officers who treat their kills like some kind of ghoulish game. If they do happen to solve a case, it's usually by accident. But it seems as though you are, or at least were, one of the good ones. So we have that to be thankful for.
He's sincerely glad you're not a scary predator. Not to say relieved you're competent.
Everyone has their own method of coping. Some more effective or self-destructive than others. Personally, I find it helps to keep up a few hobbies. Why not gardening? You've already got the yellow gloves.
It's meant in earnest. Please don't mistake it for a jab.
Yes.
It's not a problem for him to state it, however. The lieutenant nods.
Right. I'll go turn off the lights.
You can now see your statistics on your journal page, to the right of the task description.
The worn and beaten wooden planks of the bench do not look overly comforting.
We can sit on benches after we've solved the murder. Let's go.
You can revisit the bench if you ever need to pass the time when Lieutenant Kitsuragi is gone.
This coin-operated viewer is facing southwest. Its coin slot is full of fossilized bubblegum, rendering the machine permanently inaccessible. The metal feels cold and wet under your palm. It looks unhygienic.
Probably some kids.
A simple but clever solution to ruining a coin-operated viewer. It took ingenuity. A thick layer of graffito covers the lenses. You spell out the word Onug written on the other side, with N and C scribbled backwards. That's Kuno on the lens. Under the graffito, a sea of blues and greys appear. Behind the water lies a coast studded with concrete and reeds. On it, a church on stilts, lanky weather-worn wooden planks, an X-shaped cross topping its tower. You know this to be the star of Pericarnassus, or the Cairo, the central symbol of the Pericarnassian church, a star, a great moral height to be strived towards. The church looks old and weather-worn. There are no lights in the windows. Around the large wooden building you see chunks of sea ice gathered on the beach, and a small tent set up on the ice. This coin-operated viewer is facing south. The instruction manual says to insert 25 centimes and pull the handle while looking inside. Then use the focus knob to zoom in if necessary. Why place a tourist attraction in the middle of such poverty?
There was a revitalization project in 49. A design studio tried restoring Martinez to its pre-war glory. It didn't stick. They got as far as the street lamps and the statue on that intersection. Then something went sour. I suspect that something was Everard Clare, the union leader. He muscled them out. It's how it usually goes around here. We should have done something about the union 10 years ago. That ship has sailed, officer.
Your money disappears into the coin slot. A clunk, the ring of metal. The curtains on the display open. You lean in to catch the view. It's blurry, different blues and greens. In the middle of the shimmer stands a drab grey shape, like a ghost. The lenses shift. The ghost sharpens into an islet in the bay. In the ruins, a man-made structure is visible. A half-sunken sea fort. Its concrete almost reconquered by nature. It looks as if it was abandoned quite some time ago. Nothing but a rotten tooth remains of the anti-aircraft tower. A lonely birch tree grows out of it. Its leaves ripped from it by the winter wind.
Really? I don't have the eyesight to make it out.
The little brave birch tree seems to wave back in the wind.
Yes?
Whoa, what have we here? A bridge with loose nails and rot-infested wood that creaks in the wind. A construction code violation if there ever was one.
True, they never cleaned up the war damage. The rest of Revachol looks better, though. The bridge is fine enough. Locals use it all the time, after all. It's nothing to worry about. Shall we?
This is a wall on the side of an apartment building. Blank, conveying nothing. Because this is no ordinary wall, it is sublime. Look at it. The shadows, the colors. All the other walls on all the other houses must make a pilgrimage in adoration of this, the uncontested pinnacle of wallcraft. Color peeled from the very face of God. Your hands shake as they reach for the wall. O Wall Father.
Huh?
He sounds tired of it all.
Sure. I suppose we have to pass by it again at some point anyway.
Trying to sneak up on me? Come to slit my throat in my sleep?
Apparently, she doesn't like people standing behind her back. Logic error. She is not sleeping right now.
Pig's come to take me out, trying to snuff me out.
If anything, you're afraid she'll take you out one day.
fucking clever with me, pig. You think you're so clever. Trying to sneak up on me again? Trying to snuff me out? Get away, pig!
The spread pattern of these bullet holes makes your chest ache. Your breath grows heavier. More old bullet holes. Half a century at least. From the Revolution.
Remnants from the Revolution. These are over half a century old. No, we are not constructors and renovators. And these bullet holes do not warrant an investigation. Not much. I don't have a fresh perspective on it. Should we go? There must be another way into the building.
Hey, up here, pig.
Yes? There must be another way into the building.
A striking woman leans against the cabin top of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach. Her green raincoat glistens with droplets. A silk scarf is tied around her throat.
Good evening, officers. I'm Joyce. Joyce L. Messier. I represent the board of Wild Pines, the owners of the harbour. You gentlemen must be from the RCM. I'm glad to see you here.
Like steel, there is strength there. If she wanted, she could sink her nails deep into your skin.
I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to assist the RCM in this matter, I will, gladly.
That is good to hear, madame. My colleague will take the lead on this interview. I should let you know that he is recovering from an unusual medical episode. Very unusual. But I can assure you of his ultimate competency.
There's a trace of irony in his voice. Mischief even. The lieutenant is hatching some scheme. He's trying to signal something. He wants you to play up your condition. It happens quicker than a shooting star. But did the lieutenant just wink at you?
How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full cooperation, and the full cooperation of the Wild Pines group.
It's hard to get a read on her precise disposition, but she appears helpful.
Why, yes I am. The boat? No. It is called Cordelati 19 because that's the type of sloop it is.
The word "it" feels strange. Such a beautiful boat deserves a proper name. A breeze ripples through the sails and tugs at your hair. Below, the sleek, fish-like shape of the hull parts the water. Beneath that, a resounding darkness. You're reminded of something. Or someone.
It's a pleasure craft, a 19 pacer. It also happens to be rated for Category 1 racing. Though these days I mainly use it for business. Okay, how about Cordelati 19? Why? Because it was manufactured in Revachol East by a company called Cordelati, and its hull is 19 paces long.
She makes a point of being unromantic about it.
Why Dolores?
Because it stings in an ancient and beautiful way.
Well, it means nothing to me. I think I'll stick with the factory name. But thank you for the suggestion. My sloop? I like it a lot. It's the eel's hips, baby.
I'm enjoying this part of the interview. It has so little to do with the murder we're investigating.
I really do, the lieutenant thinks. Is she thrown off yet? He's looking at the woman, assessing her.
Officer, I assure you I'm a highly qualified pleasure craft operator.
The crowns of her teeth are porcelain, white as the boat's hull as she smiles. Qualified pleasure craft operator. So charming. Where's the damn license?
I just renewed its safety inspection last month, officers. It is completely seaworthy. In fact, it's taken part in not one, but two insulindic regattas. Even finished once.
Actually, you don't. The Wayfarer Act specifically denies the RCM the authority to demand anyone's operator license. It's a little-known fact among us law officials.
The Wayfarer Act is one of the few pieces of legislation governing human interaction in the Revachol Zone of Control, along with the Emergency Trade and Ailments Acts. It's one of the foundational laws in Revachol, designed to limit the authority of local institutions. Part of it prohibits the RCM from requesting most documents and licenses without permission from a coalition representative. It's a law that keeps Revachol what it is, in limbo.
I was just being polite. Even school children know the Wayfarer Act. No need to resort to self-pity, detective. You can still ask for her passport.
You need to save face if you want her respect. Demand that passport.
Of course.
The woman is silent, smiling while the waves lap against the hull. In your hand, under the plastic, a light blue passport saying, Republic of Vespa. The coat of arms has a lion and an ostrich. Seagent. The Republic of Vespa, formerly the Republic of Vespa Messina, was once a dual kingdom. An amicable parting of ways produced two constitutional monarchies. Vespa, the richer of the two, is an occidental nation known for its proximity to the Pale and its exotic financial derivatives. It is a stable country, and yet there has always been something ominous about its perfect stability. It's a place at the edge of the Muindi Isola, overlooking the Obi-Sunt Isles, fracturing into the great unrest of the Pale. The woman, born in the year 3 in the commune of Revachol, smiles at you, face adorned with frown lines and crow's feet. The photo is recent. The name reads, Rejoice Leighton Messier.
Yes, but please don't call me that. Joyce is much more efficient.
She doesn't like it. Probably a bad memory. Mean girls at school or some ancient lover.
My husband is. I have dual citizenship. A Vespertine is handier when traveling.
She nods and returns the plastic bag to her coat.
Of course there are. We're on an archipelago. How else are you supposed to get around?
There is a pinch of defensiveness in her voice, but it is playful.
Yes, we are. We are on Le Caillou.
Technically, the neighboring Ozone and Fas a la Mer island groups are archipelagos, while La Caillou, by contrast, is a single fertile landmass, the 4th largest island in the world. It is not an archipelago.
Okay, if you want to get technical, the point is we're all on islands here, and sail is still the most expedient way to get from one island to another, especially when you're in a hurry to resolve a strike. I haven't seen anyone else drive a souped-up Capri Kenema motor carriage either.
Actually, that motor carriage has been specially issued to serve as a patrol and pursuit vehicle. It's for crossing long distances in the greater Revachol industrial harbor. It's not a toy.
Neither is this. A toy, I mean. It's a machine for crossing long distances in the Bay of Revachol, between the city and the islands.
You need to make this lady admit she's only riding around on this boat because she's rich. You have the guns and the ammo. Take this Clausen fiend down.
Oh my, the E word. You mean to say that it's a symbol of conspicuous consumption? That I'm a member of the ruling class?
Detective, may I remind you that Mrs. Messier is a professional negotiator?
Then what does that say? Does it say docking reserved for residents of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A? 33A? This old proletarian haunt here? As I said, plenty of people drive boats, of all social strata.
Your synapses flesh.
You mean Eel's hips? But point taken. I am a bourgeois woman, and this is my fast, light, interminably bourgeois boat.
There is no shame in her voice. A touch of sadness, yes, but no shame.
Oh my, the E word. You...
Detective, may I remind you that...
Then what does 33A? This old proletarian haunt here? As I said, plenty of people drive boats, of all socials. Yes, anyway. Good. What we do. I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking.
There was a touch of discomfort there. She wants to merely represent.
The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of things. And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms.
The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revacholian Indo-tribes. Companies awarded royal monopolies by the king, the suzerain himself, centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several of the Indo tribes remain. She enjoys talking about the company. It would not hurt to inquire more.
Why, thank you. I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue. And to think, there are years when the group books losses in the billions. Wild Pines employs 72,000 people, all of whom have families that depend on their salaries. It is a tremendous responsibility. They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lomantang on behalf of the suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the Great Unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees to build it. You know more than you let on. Certainly it helped, but most of the original Indo tribes have failed or been absorbed. To survive, Wild Pines had to grow and adapt. No suzerain did that. You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo? We built this district.
We. There it is. She owns up to it.
All the best parts of it. Rue de Saint-Ghislain, with its bastions, the plazas Meteor and Mosaic. Even some of the old street lamps have been put back thanks to the investments from the WP. Before Martinez was swallowed by the industrial harbour, even before it was part of Revachol, long before Terminal B was erected here, the Pines built it as a resort for its Revacholian employees. A company getaway, for a weekend or a summer holiday. Then came the revolution. But that's another matter. I'm here to make sure the Pines can fulfill their responsibilities to the place they built.
With your help, hopefully, says her warm tone.
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets. First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade in Aliments that gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus.
The octopus that straddles Revachol, the Emergencies Act, is the cornerstone of post-war Revachol, inseparable from the world it created.
Good luck is only kept in place by the vested interests of half the civilized world, including your own.
What the ma'am means is that the Emergencies Act and the RCM both get their authority from the coalition government.
You'd be shooting yourself in the foot, in other words. Did someone say, shooting yourself in the foot?
I imagine a man like you can take quite the lashing. But I believe we are talking about the strike. I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer.
No way. She's more. She can make decisions.
And how are the talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after that awful lynching took place.
Wait. She just admitted that the lynching and the strike are connected.
Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter-20 racist behemoth blocking the gates. Yes, I believe there is a connection, but that's a subject for later.
She's resolute in this, yet you sense that she wants to tell you. You'll have to earn her trust first.
Oh, so you've met him. Has he beguiled you with his inane theories?
My colleague has his peculiarities. Let's not go into this particular one just yet.
Of course. To each their own. Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
And when did you first arrive?
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site. like the RCM.
But the strike began in December.
I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike.
Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive.
Ludicrous even. It's meant.
There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. What did they say again? Oh yes, every worker, a member of the board.
Most of the workers probably don't know what that means.
In its defense, another said, demand democracy. Pretty tame stuff compared to every worker, a member of the board. Fortunately, they explained it. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about anything, it needs the signature of each of the 2,200 workers in its Martinez terminal. Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are also kings of the 72,000 employees of Wild Pines Group.
An opening gambit, surely.
They're having a blast. But how can they afford it? After 4 months, my assumption was they would prefer a more practical solution. So I hoped. But this type of opening is usually followed by a more reasonable offer. I have yet to hear one. Just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over again. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind the whirling in rags. A disastrous situation if there ever was one.
Excuse me, from whom did you hear about this lynching?
I first heard it from the bowyer at the gates. The one whose very name advertises his aversion to work. I think he said it was, "Call me mañana."
This checks out. No, wait. The chief negotiator heard it from a man at the gates. Surely the Wild Pines Group has more effective channels of information. After all, 2,200 people are on strike. This is a big deal for them.
Mr. Clare told him to... How did he put it? Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see. Yes. Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the union.
Sounds like usual aggressive posturing.
The scabs? You mean the huddled masses of Jamrock come to plead for work where the union refuses to?
Don't let her answer it herself.
If these strikebreakers were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a company secret. I could not share it with you. Not yet, at least.
It's implied. She's open to discussing this matter with you at a later occasion.
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first.
She's being sarcastic. Don't take her performance literally.
Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood.
If you were to prick it with something sharp, you could see it oozing out. A knife, maybe? No, a rapier.
Oh, heavens, no. We get along just fine. Yet, now that you mention it, I can't stop imagining that black treacle just dribbling down his double chin. He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar. Have you seen him? Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Evrart does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues. The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act, but they did it. I can respect that. Organised labour at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say?
A mob. The Débardeurs are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, I suspect we'll be forced to cooperate with them.
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Evrart and his brother. And your opinion, detective? If I may ask. I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Débardeurs Union is... Why do you think so?
What she calls corruption is simply an aesthetic category.
Well, I suppose that's one way to look at it. They're an interesting composition, albeit vile. But enough about Evrart. What else can I do for you? I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the Union. She disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore, or coming to work. Ever. End of story.
This forewoman, her name?
Sadly, the company records do not even give a name. She's just forewoman in private correspondence, Holly. I don't even know if it's a sir or given name, and I don't have access to the Union's files. Indeed, the company suspects foul play, but there's nothing they could do. It was a Union matter. The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with him.
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
Of course. How else can I help? Quite a few things, I'm afraid.
Worry lines crease her forehead, but it's more than worry. In her eyes, a hint of... is that guilt?
The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your names and badge numbers.
Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. I am Lieutenant Kitsuragi, from Precinct 57. And this is my colleague from Precinct 41. I'm afraid he doesn't have his badge at the moment. I hope mine will suffice.
How curious. Why is that, Detective?
Awkwardness washes over the conversation. The woman doesn't like this turn of events. 'Twas stolen by some artist, surely. Best to pin the blame on them. Everyone knows you can't trust artists.
I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode? I can't hear you, darling. Speak up, please. Oh dear. I suppose this does explain some of the more curious turns in our conversation.
She must have been suspecting something for a while now.
As I said, ma'am, his technique may be very unconventional, but he is an officer of the RCM.
Of course, I sympathize, but I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge.
Hang on. She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement. She's a negotiator. Just float a favor at her. Insinuates.
I will be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to justify it to my superiors. They're going to want to see something very tangible.
You're in, but expect her to drive a hard bargain.
Reports from inside Terminal B suggest it's a hub for the local drug trade. This is an open secret in Martinez. The Union controls the terminal, so it goes to reason.
They're profiting from this trade.
The company has tried looking into this matter before, to no avail. Perhaps someone with your authority and resources might turn over the right stones. Or you can recover your badge, though if I may be blunt with you, it sounds like that may be a lost cause.
Detective, a word in private before we continue. This is not going quite as I hoped it would, Detective. Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance, and not volunteer us to be her henchman. This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she's simply an adept improviser. Either way, we've played straight into her hands.
He doesn't let it show, but there is a limit to how much the consequences of your unprofessional behavior can cost the investigation. Maybe this is all her plan. She might have heard about you.
I'm sure you will, Detective. I wouldn't go that far. Her reaction did come off as sincere to me. I think she's just quick to adapt. She's a professional, after all. Oh, that would be fantastic, but do we have the time? The world is large and your badge is 8 by 6 centimeters.
The situation might have changed drastically by the time you locate it. Time is of the essence.
You could request a new one from the station, but that would literally take months.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with at this late hour? Matter of fact, I don't. I have a medical condition of my own. Nothing unusual, though. I'm old, you see. Thank you. I do what I can to remain presentable. Now, ask me some questions. It'll help us pass the night. That's the man who was killed. I'm afraid this is a discussion for once we've cleared the lynching question. Better not tie the fourth day to the bat's day on this. I hope there is something else I can help you with.
She wants to answer the question. Protocol keeps her from it.
This reality.
Yes, reality is your side case. An experimental side case. The aim is to gain a deeper understanding.
How truly curious. A sort of philosopher detective.
Aren't all.
Naturally. Except the ones who are detectives. Are they now?
A deep synthesis. I'll assist you however I can then. Go ahead. Ask.
All right, we're in. I know these all look good, but begin with the first, okay?
We're in Martinez, baby. A casual term of endearment popular among the 50-plus crowd. It's a disco holdover, pay it no heed. Aren't we all?
She refers to your corresponding ages.
Martinez is a district of Revachol. A very small district tucked away near the industrial harbour. North of the 881 and Jamrock. You would be excused for not knowing about it. Unimportant, they say. Forgotten, even. Shelled to smithereens during the Revolution. It has its charms, just not this time of year. I'm not a good ambassador. I've only been here once before, as a teenager. Not a lot has changed. There are ruins, a terminal, fishing boats, reeds, boys with boxy shoulders.
A brief spike of longing in her upright body. The dots under her eyelids shake.
As I told you, Martinez used to be a province. A workers' resort before the city swallowed it and the artillery did its part. Now the reeds are the real star of the show here. The further down the coast, the wilder it gets. Yes, I was slumming it with some girlfriends of mine. We had boats and... Don't hold it against me. The boys certainly did not.
There's a spark in the air, a live wire hanging in the wind, in your hungover neocortex. Then the sea air cools it down.
It's not really a sea, it's the Bay of Revachol. And the bay feeds into the ocean. Yes, we're on an island in an ocean, the world's largest body of water, the Insulindic.
Known to the early Revacholians as Les Immensités Bleues, the Blue Immensities. Vast, lukewarm and unknowable, flowing in and out of sight.
Caillou, as you already know. Imagine a pebble. A smoothed-over pebble amidst a great blue sea, misshapen, cracked. The cracks are the River Esperance. We're in the delta of this river, on the 6th branch, the Martinez distributary.
It is clear this pebble is of enormous value to her, and to humanity at large.
Revachol? Revachol is what you call a city. The great kind.
As if it's self-explanatory, beyond patriotism, a fact.
History detective. They built this city to resolve history. Our part in it, at least. Our centuries. The nations of the Occident, or migrant workers from Semenine and Ile-Marat, depending on your creed. In the DeLorean century, 380 years ago. They say it's where the terrible questions of our time will be answered. The tensions are highest, the fault lines deepest. By that I mean conflicts. Ideological conflicts. The stuff of men. We are standing on a fertile, self-sufficient island able to sustain up to 200 million people in the middle of the Insulindic Ocean, the world's connective tissue. It's where the money is. Oh, we're quite a way off. About...
A sparkle of lights on the nighttime horizon, reflected in the dark sea.
22 kilometers from the center of the world. That soldering iron is the bank of the world building. The bottom floors are Insiacom. Coalition government, Insulindian Mission Command.
Silence. She lowers her hand. There is no recognition, only the immensity of the sea and the cold radiating from it. She observes your eyes scanning the horizon, then breaks the silence, slowly. This is one thought you need to complete. Where are you?
Was there something else you wanted to know? I remember something about a lowdown.
This has been informative. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure my memory-impaired partner has many more questions to ask, about even more fundamental aspects of reality. Might I suggest not asking them all right now? Madame Messier will be here later too, and tomorrow. Isn't that true, ma'am?
Absolutely. My commitment here is long-term.
It's better not to eat all your candy at once.
Indeed. I'm always at your service. Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else? Of course, Detective.
Yes?
The trash container stands in the spring snow. The smell of rotten food rises to greet you. You see soggy cartons, dirty rags, and organic waste. The container sounds a muffled gong.